When you're at 50 miles above the earth, do you think it really matters whether you're a Jack Russell or a Spaniel?
Diverting late-night football conversation for prostitutes.
How dare you!
Chronic back pain sufferers.
Done the old back again.
And security guards who haven't quite nodded off yet. Wake up! The Michaels, Graham and Parry on Talk Sport. For when two mics are better than one.
Look at the light!
When are they going to teach a dog to speak? Because that's got to happen eventually. Dog breath can be a big problem.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. It's time to say a very, very good morning to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. A very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
I get you now, boy. Now that is resonating around the nation now.
It certainly is. Bobcat Bob. I think we've got a new name for him, which is now being adopted by all and sundry.
Yeah, Bobcat Bob. It's Mayor's first speech today.
Well, he's been interviewed for Swans TV.
Yeah, Swans TV.
You know, he's very
Not
proud.
Not exactly NBC, but Swans TV.
Exactly right. So we'll hear some of his dulcet tones a little bit later on, so you can get a sound check of his actual voice.
He looks to me as well like just as he landed in Wales and got off the plane, somebody smacked him in the face with a pan because he looks rather stunned and shocked about it all.
You have described people as looking sort of pan-faced in the past.
Yeah.
I'm still sure that he's going to do a great job, so I'm not going to join onto your bandwagon that he's going to be an absolutely hopeless choice.
It'll be a disaster.
I don't agree.
And I totally agree with you about Gareth Southgate. Gareth Southgate's a very nice guy. I heard a commentator earlier on saying what a remarkable interview Gareth Southgate gave this week. You know, insight, analysis, intelligent.
Right.
Actually, he didn't say anything.
No.
He's
been reflecting on what a great honour it is to get the job.
Exactly. It's taken him like 3 days to have this reflection, Now, I'm Gareth Southgate, and I've just realised it's actually good to be the England manager.
Yeah, even though he's not actually the England manager.
No, exactly,
But he is, as we said yesterday, getting 125k a game.
Yeah, I totally...
First game coming up on Saturday.
I totally agree. And so this idea that he gave this rousing speech, I mean, crikey...
He's not exactly Henry V, is he?
I've never seen him rouse anything. I saw him get trodden on by Roy Keane in the semi-final at Villa Park in 1995, I think it was.
Right.
And even that didn't rouse him.
No.
Believe me, and Keane put his studs right through his rib cage, you know what I mean?
Right.
Got sent off for it, actually.
Did he? Yeah.
Semi-final replay, I think it was, of the FA Cup.
Right.
And he didn't rouse then, so he's not really a rouser, Gareth
He's not
Southgate,
a guy
to be
that
honest.
you can imagine getting upset about anything, getting particularly shouty about anything. You can't really imagine him doing anything but be very considered.
Gareth Southgate is literally a cerebral sort of guy. He sees himself as, well, as the commentator I'm talking about earlier said, really intelligent and all that.
Well, he sees himself as that,
well,
but
exactly.
does that mean that he is, though?
Well, I don't really regard himself as, the cerebral, deep thinking,
I mean, whenever he was
every
a pundit...
word I say is a golden nugget of wisdom and all that, but he's not a rouser.
No.
I don't know. Whenever describe him as a...
Well, whenever he was a pundit on TV,
yes.
and you gave him a hard time for going in and out of punditry and back to management and back to punditry and all that.
Yeah.
I can't remember him ever giving any particularly brilliant insights on anything.
No, and I remember at Middlesbrough, and as Middlesbrough fell further and further down the table, he was interviewed after every game.
Yeah.
He didn't give any rousing, I'll get it right.
No.
He gave well, I suppose if we fall too far down the table, my job will be under threat.
Yes.
I am prepared to take, the... Oh, by the way, talk about taking responsibility.
Yeah.
I was watching another commentator tonight, and Chelsea ladies... I didn't realise there was a...
There was a big deal about that game, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah, the Champions League.
Bridge.
Champions League. So they're playing against Wolfsburg at Stamford Bridge, first ever, and they got battered 3-0, and the German centre-forward scored a hat-trick. I mean, she had a very good night. But the lady who I saw had the title of chairman of Chelsea Ladies came afterwards, the most brilliant quote. She said... well, of course, in my position here as head of the Chelsea Ladies, I take full responsibility, for what happened tonight, because it was their first ever game at Stamford Bridge, and, some of
there was a great big fanfare about it,
some of the Chelsea hierarchy were there, and it was going to be a great occasion, but it was a disaster. They got slaughtered, So she said, of course, as head of this organisation, as the person who, leads from the front and all that, I have to take responsibility for what night and say, for what happened tonight, and say, all the players let me down. What a brilliant way.
I thought you were going to say, therefore I resign immediately from my position.
Oh, no. It's more, I take responsibility, but it's the players who let me down. That was a brilliant way of accepting responsibility, but not accepting responsibility because she's responsible for the players who let her down.
So that's the sort of thing you would do, actually, isn't it? I mean, she's obviously a woman after your own heart.
I don't think so.
I mean, I can't imagine you ever taking responsibility for something that's gone wrong.
I think that's a bit
harsh.
Even
when the podcast comes out a little bit late, you know, you're the first person to jump all over me and say it's my fault.
Well,
and when it comes out on time, sometimes you claim credit for it.
Well, that's
when
because
you well know that neither of us really have anything to do with the podcast.
Well, I have to give you an occasional wake-up call.
Is
that's
that right?
all. But
now, talking about taking responsibility, I see an interesting new development at York. Have you seen that their manager, Mr. McNamara, has basically been told and has said that if he gets an unfavourable result in the next game, he's gone.
He's out, is he?
So that's an unusual move, isn't it? I mean, normally they wait until there is an unfavourable. They don't actually telegraph it. They don't usually say, if you get a bad result this weekend, you're out.
Well, the only thing about that, Mike, is that nobody cares what happens at York.
Well, I think that's very unfair.
No, nobody could care.
We went through York a couple of weeks ago, didn't we?
We did, passed through York. York's very good for York Minster.
Yes.
It's very good for the
train museum.
The train museum. Yeah. And it's very good also for a road called the Shambles, right?
The Shambles, yes. Yeah. I think I've been down it. And that's round the back of the Minster.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely right, it is. And there's a particular road in the Shambles which is a museum.
Yeah.
And you go in there and they show you all the gruesome tortures that used to be inflicted on Protestants during the Reformation and all that. And there was a woman there who's very famous because she refused to convert. So what they did is they said, we'll sort you out if you don't. She said, nothing you can do, will change my opinion.
Yeah.
They said, this will change your opinion. So they took the door off the entrance and put it on top of her.
Right.
And then got 6 people who were walking past in the street to stand on the door. And that's where the torture called pressing came from. They pressed her to death, which is a bit harsh.
It is a bit harsh.
But that's what York's famous for. York's not famous for football. When I was a kid, about
famous for cricket, you might say, isn't it?
No.
Yorkshire cricket?
Well, that's not in York. That's in Leeds, you idiot.
No, I know, but it's still
Headingley
Yorkshire. But York is like the capital city of Yorkshire, isn't it?
York's not famous for cricket at all.
Well, it must be, because Yorkshire County cricket is very famous, right?
Yeah, which is based at Headingley in Leeds.
Well, it doesn't matter where it's based. It's based in the county, isn't it?
Rubbish. What a load of nonsense. You know full well that that's a ridiculous
I don't know full well
supposition.
At all. I know even less about cricket than you do.
What I was going to say was, when I was a kid of about 8, and I was too young to go to Goodison Park on my own in case I got sort of lost on a train or something, I used to go to Chester, Sealand Road.
Yes.
And the teams who were regularly there amongst Chester, who were the biggest bunch of bums in the country, were Chester, Rochdale, Darlington, Doncaster, but always York.
Yeah.
Always York,
And, they've always been down there.
Always been trash.
Well, I just think it's an interesting... Trash is a very harsh word.
Well, I mean, in football culture, in cultural football terms, you know what I mean? If you see what I mean. I
think that's very unfair.
I don't mean the people of York are trash. York's a great city, and the people who live there are great people. And it's very similar to Chester, the city I was brought up in. But I'm afraid, in terms of football, what have they ever given culturally to football? The answer is nothing.
Well, they're giving now a new way of sacking your manager. I think that might be something that people adopt.
So that gets one line in the lowest-selling newspaper in Britain tomorrow morning. I'd be surprised, honestly.
All right, well, we'll go and see if
it matters not a dot to the football landscape.
Not a jot? Well, we'll have a look.
Not a dot or a jot to the football landscape.
Okay, how about this from Cola, who says managers who were not rousers include Bob Paisley, Bobby Robson and Carlo Ancelotti. Vive la difference.
No, that's not true.
I don't imagine Bob Paisley couldn't rouse people.
Bobby Robson was a great rouser.
Was a great rouser, and I'm sure Carlo Ancelotti has plenty of passion about him when it comes to football.
And Bob Paisley, according to the books I've read, used to give you that steely stare and tell you, son, if you ever produce a performance like that again in a team that I've put out at Anfield, you're out. And that
Where
was
he from?
He was from County Durham.
Was he?
Yeah, he was Geordie. He was from a little village called West Allotment.
Okay.
Yes,
very
nice.
Right.
Yeah,
thank you very much
just
indeed.
I'll let you know
now, we've got lots going on today. We've got Sergeant Lee coming on. We've got Porkyvision. Now, I'm slightly concerned by your tweet that you put out earlier that you might need 2 sections for Porkyvision.
Well, I think so. There's so much to talk about.
I'm sure people are going to want to listen to 2 sections.
I think they will.
Why don't we just elongate with 1 section?
No. I've been watching intently, and I don't think there's not enough minutes in 1 section for me to get through what I need to tell you tonight.
You can't turn Porkyvision into a 30-minute rant by you.
Well,
you can't do it.
We could do it 1.5 sections or something like that. It's worth it. It's worth
it.
Well,
I'm going to suggest we put it to the vote. Was what I was going to do.
Yeah, okay. Put it to the vote to the general public. But I can tell you that the depth of what I'm going to talk about tonight is well worth more than 1 section of the show. And I want to tell you folks out there, believe me, it's pure entertainment, so you'll want more of it, not less.
But mostly the thing about Porkyvision is mostly you talking. Yes. People don't want to hear half an hour of you talking. It'll send them mad.
Well, they will want to hear what I'm talking about.
We will send it out to the vote. I will put it out on the Two Mics Twitter account.
Good idea.
Do you want Porky to do 2 sections of Porkyvision?
Yeah.
And the answer will be yes or no.
Yes, that's right.
We'll take the temperature of the nation over the course of the next hour or so.
How do you think the England players would know that Gareth Southgate was giving this rousing speech? I mean,
I've no idea.
Somebody tell them.
Somebody must have told them.
Right, sit down, boys, because Gareth's about to give you a rousing speech.
Yeah. Whereas with Bobcat Bob, you know when he's giving you a rousing speech, right?
Well, they've extended it from, I've got you, boy, to, okay, boys, I got you, boys. It's been extended to that.
Yes, okay, right. Well, we'll get into all of that. We're going to talk
He looks fearsome, by the way, doesn't he, with his no hair?
He does, yeah.
He looks
skull-like. Look at the time.
Skull-like, yeah.
Never mind all that. We'll get into that a little bit later on. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. We are full of ideas tonight, full of all sorts of brimming with stuff.
We certainly are.
I've pinned a tweet to the top of the Two Mics.
Yeah.
The question reads: should Porkyvision be extended to 2 sections of the show tonight?
Right.
I can tell you that we've had 27 votes in so far.
Yeah.
59% say yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
41% say no. For heaven's sake, could somebody fix that, please?
Please keep them coming, because I can assure you it is such quality, incisive analysis of what's been on your TV. You won't want to miss it, believe me.
As soon as it gets to no, basically, in the majority, we'll shut the poll.
That's
going to be the plan. Now, how about this from somebody who doesn't give a name?
Right.
I knew I preferred the other mic to you, Porky. You always think you're right about everything. Idiot. People from County Durham aren't Geordies. Mackems, actually. Hello, River Weir. I can go on, but that's enough history
hang
for
on,
today.
hang on. Excuse me. I know that, and I know it very well indeed.
Okay.
But to anybody else south of the Weir, anybody who sounds like Bob Paisley is a Geordie. I know he wasn't a Geordie if he comes from County Durham.
You said he was a Geordie, though.
I said he was from Geordieland, which is different. People who come from Birkenhead to people in London are Scousers.
Yes.
But they're not really. They're from Birkenhead. They're Birkonians. Right? Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Birkonians? I've never heard that.
Yeah.
Here's one from John.
Me, I'm posh. I'm a Cestrian.
You're posh, are you?
Yeah,
Actually, I've got some great news for you as a posh person. But you need to get a new
Excellent.
car because there's a certain service that you'll be able to acquire if you get a better car. Bob Paisley
don't need a better car.
Bob Paisley morphed into the TV detective Vera.
Yeah, he did actually. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Now, do you know why we were playing that song?
Yes,
Thriller.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, because the chap who wrote it is dead.
Did you know that he wrote it? Rod Temperton.
Rod Temperton. Yeah, you see,
did you know that he wrote that song?
No, I didn't.
Because you talk about Michael Jackson's Thriller video quite a lot.
Oh, I do.
And John Landis, who directed it.
That's
and all
right.
the zombies coming out of the graves and all that.
You
make a lot of reference to that, but it was never really. I suppose you'd have to be a bit of an aficionado of Michael Jackson to know that he didn't write it.
Well, you see, this is what I never get about these great superstars. Starting with Elvis Presley, going through Frank Sinatra, Michael Jackson, Rod Stewart, although I think Rod Stewart has a lot to do with the writing of his records. But did Michael Jackson write any of his great hit records?
What, you mean the Jackson 5 ones?
No, I mean the great single ones.
Well, I think he must have done.
Billie Jean and things like that.
Well, I think he wrote Billie Jean. I do believe he wrote Billie Jean.
Yeah, but you see,
Rod Temperton did not. According to this, Rod Temperton wrote Thriller. He wrote Rock With You, which was quite a big hit for Michael Jackson. But he's not credited with writing lots and lots of Michael Jackson songs.
Yeah. Thriller was one of the most famous records of all time, actually, because of the video.
Yeah.
Because the video was
the album is one of the most biggest selling albums of all time. I think it was the biggest selling album for a long time.
I went to the party at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York on the night that... Was it Sony who would have been his record label? I think it was.
I think it was CBS, wasn't it?
Was it CBS? Okay, whichever one it was. They were celebrating the 35 millionth sale of Thriller. And Jackson turned up. Mike Jackson turned up. It was in the days when he wore the one white glove, and the sparkly jacket and sunglasses and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And he actually turned up at this place. And I think the album...
I think he didn't talk to anyone.
No, he didn't talk to anybody. He just got up on the stage with black glasses and said, thank you, and then disappeared again. That's all he ever said. And but the album had only been out about 18 months.
You didn't get a three-part series out of it then?
No, I didn't get a three-part series out of it. We had to wear a black tie.
Did you
go there? Yeah.
Great place for a party, though.
Oh, yeah.
Metropolitan Museum of Art.
I totally agree. But it had only been out about 18 months. It had already sold about 35 million copies. Unbelievable. Now, do you remember the first time you saw Thriller? Where were you?
What, the actual video?
The video, yeah. Because it was legendary.
No.
It was legendary.
Well, it's not as if it's not like when John F. Kennedy was shot. I mean, why would I remember where I was?
Yeah, no.
Why would I remember where I was when I saw it?
Because I do.
Well, that's because you love Michael Jackson.
No, I don't love Michael Jackson. I was a big fan of his music in those days. I'm subsequently...
Well, I was never a massive fan. In fact,
subsequently have to weigh up what I think about Michael Jackson.
When that album came out, I know that I was working in England, I think, because I got a free copy of it, because I used to review albums for some magazine.
Right, okay.
So I got a free copy of that. So it must have been... very early 80s, I guess, if you were in New York.
No, it was 83, wasn't it?
Well, that is early 80s.
Early 80s? No, I'm sure you were in New York.
No, I wasn't.
Then.
I was not in New York when Thriller came out.
Well, the first time I saw it was in New York, and I saw it come out, and I was mesmerised, because the way it opens is it's a video within a video, isn't it? Because the way it opens, Michael Jackson is with that beautiful girl in the cinema watching some bloke chop a tree down because he's a werewolf.
Yeah, werewolf.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and then
it's meant to be a sort of a parody of the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Is it?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I thought it was all to do with zombies.
Well, no, but in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, when the car runs out of petrol and they go to the house.
Oh, I see.
Where Frankenfurter lives.
Oh, right. I've never seen that.
Haven't you?
So anyway, so they go out the cinema and they start skipping around. They go through a graveyard, and then that fantastic narrative from Boris Karloff, wasn't it?
Hey?
Is it no, not Boris Karloff.
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price, that's right. It says, a foulest stench is in the air and lots of dead people everywhere. And
I don't think that was the actual line, but I know what you mean.
And then they all start coming out the old ground and all that. And then a bit later on, he had to apologise to the Mormons, didn't he?
Did he?
Who objected to dead people crawling out of graves. The Mormons.
The Mormons?
Yeah. I'm sure he did, yeah.
Really? Are you sure?
Yeah,
well,
I'm sure,
apparently, anyway, Rod Templeton is the guy we're talking about. Do you know where he was born?
Was he born in England?
He was born in Cleethorpes.
Cleethorpes.
North East Lincolnshire.
Wow, that's amazing.
And his father was his influence. He also wrote Give Me the Night by George Benson. Remember
Just give me the night.
Yeah, that's it. Do you remember Boogie Nights by Heatwave?
That's a fantastic record.
He wrote that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Did he really?
Yeah, so we'll have to play a load of these songs.
Boogie Nights. Oh.
How about Sweet Freedom?
Boogie Nights.
Hang on. How about Sweet Freedom by Michael McDonald? Remember that one?
No, I don't remember that
you
one.
will when we play it for you.
Okay.
Baby Come to Me, Paddy Austin and James Ingram.
No, I don't remember that one
I think you might remember that when you see it. But
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what an amazing number of hits to have written. He penned 3 songs for Off the Wall.
Yes.
Which was his breakthrough solo album. It says Rock With You was one of them, and Burn This Disco Out. I don't know that one.
Yeah, no.
And he also went on to write 3 more for the follow-up Thriller. So in addition to Thriller, he also wrote Baby Be Mine.
Yeah.
And he also wrote Lady...
Sorry, Off the Wall was a Michael Jackson LP.
Yes.
And the lead track was something like Going Off the Wall.
Yeah, that's right. Well, if you remember, that was the first sort of big solo album that he had success with. And it was when he was still actually looked quite like he used to look when he was in the Jackson 5. It was after that when he started to turn a bit sort of paler and his nose changed shape.
Well, I'm not surprised, because the first time he made a solo album, all his brothers went around his house, knocked on his door and said, "What do you think you're doing making a solo album?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, it's the record company asked me to make one." He said, "Yeah, but hang on, we need like the money that you're in for your solo album. We need money." And Michael Jackson said, "Well, I can't help it. I'm now a solo artist."
Right.
So once a year, literally, he would go on the road with his brothers, and they'd do about like 7 or 8 dates, just to enable them to earn some money. Because once he'd left and became Michael Jackson, the Jackson 4 were rubbish.
Yes.
I mean, it was trash.
Well, that's right.
They weren't worth tuppence.
I mean, Jermaine had a little bit of a sort of solo successful career, and Randy had a couple of hits, but not many of them.
Yeah. The most famous song one of the Jackson brothers did after Michael Jackson left was this one. It was, "Why do you do what you do when you did what you did to me?"
Remember that one.
Yeah, I remember that one. Everybody remembers that one.
I don't remember.
But anyway, getting back to Thriller, right?
Yeah.
What about that beautiful girl who was in Thriller?
Yeah, who was it?
Well, I don't know her name, but she went off the rails.
Did she?
Yeah, she took to excesses in life. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, I presume she was picked by John Landis to be part of the thing.
I suppose so. Yeah.
But I mean, look at the tributes that have come in for this guy. Mark Ronson, so devastated here that Rod Templeton has passed away. A wonderful man, one of my favourite songwriters ever. Nile Rodgers, my dear Roger will be missed.
God, Nile Rodgers has written some of the greatest disco songs of all time.
LaToya Jackson, a brilliant, prolific songwriter. Rod Templeton, may you rest in peace. One of my favourite songs, Rock With You and Thriller.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
Nile Rodgers, by the way, right, he wrote Freak Out.
He did?
Yes. And do you know why he wrote Freak Out?
Why?
Because he was a...
Wasn't that one of those songs that had different lyrics that you then changed to Freak Out? Yeah, no, I know. But, I mean, did he not write the... A bit like, you know how Yesterday was meant to be Scrambled Eggs?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Was Freak Out not meant to be something else?
Well,
and he put that in?
Yeah, I'll tell you what it was. He was like a jobbing sort of musician-songwriter in New York when he went to some function and played, backing guitar or something for a track which involved, believe it or not, Grace Jones.
Yes.
Who I thought
Jones.
was a very poor actress. Didn't realise she actually sang songs as well.
She was good at that James Bond film.
She was all right.
No, I quite like Grace Jones. Right. I went to a restaurant. I had to go to a restaurant and review it for the Sunday Times.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Anyway,
a warm lobster salad.
A warm lobster
Very
salad.
nice. She had it was in the village, right?
Yeah.
But the problem was that she kept inviting all her friends there, and none of them ever paid.
No,
so the place lasted about 6 months and went out of business.
Goes bust, yeah. But anyway, so after doing this session, she said, "Oh, I'm in Studio 54 tonight doing a gig. Why don't you come along as my guest?"
Who said that?
Grace Jones to Nile Rodgers.
Yes.
So Nile Rodgers and his mate turn up at the door of 54, and circumnavigated the queue.
Yeah.
And the guy opens the shutter and he says, "Hello." He says, "My name should be on the door. I'm Nile Rodgers." And he said, "Why would we let you in?"
Yeah.
And he said, "I'm a personal friend of Grace Jones."
Yeah.
And the guy behind the door said, "Yeah, everybody's a personal friend of Grace Jones."
Really?
F off and shut the door. So they go back to Nile Rodgers' apartment and use the words that the doorman had barked at him.
This is the story I think I've heard.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And so it became F off.
Right. But they obviously thought that would have commercial problems.
So they changed it to Freak Out.
Yeah.
But within that song, if you look at the lyrics, it mentions being rejected by 54.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know the lyrics that well. Yeah. Well, fascinating stuff. Here's one from Woodenhead. Porkyvision for half an hour. How about he cuts out the meaningless, tripe and inane ramblings and makes it 10 minutes long?
Oh, that's very nice.
It's not very nice, is it?
It's not much of an appreciation of my skills at reviewing TV programmes.
Eddie says, get on the train from Leeds to Durham and you see dozens of cricket pitches, especially around York. How's that, Porky?
Yeah, you do, but it has nothing to do with the county cricket team. Some county cricket teams play at more than one venue.
Yes.
For instance, Surrey play at the Oval, but they also play in... Where else do they play?
Where else do they play?
Surrey, Worcester. They also play at Worcester.
Surrey play at Worcester?
Yeah.
Why?
No, is it Worcester?
Why would they play at Worcester?
No, Guildford. They play at Guildford.
Which is in Surrey.
Yeah,
well, that makes a bit more sense.
Yeah, Guildford in Surrey. And Kent, for instance, play at Rochester.
Yeah.
And Maidstone.
Do they?
Yeah.
You used to have friends in Maidstone, didn't you?
Yeah, I used to, yeah.
Not anymore, though.
No, I haven't. No.
Roger, just to make this an even-handed contest, is that he says Porkyvision is the most informative, coherent, educational section on national radio. Of course I want two sections.
Thank you very much.
At the moment, the yes vote is 61%.
Excellent.
The no vote's 39%. Can you please change this, otherwise it's going to be a bloody disaster.
Excellent.
This is an incredible sort of catalogue of hits that this guy had written.
Yeah,
we'll do some more songs of his as we go. Sadly died of cancer yesterday.
I think we should, in tribute.
Indeed. A couple more tweets for you. Freddie says this, about time the fat man had at least an hour for the priceless piece of Parry piffle that is Porkyvision. Hard to say that in so much literature.
That's rather unfortunate.
Well, it's a sort of backhanded compliment. I mean, he's basically saying you should have longer.
Yeah, but
he refers to you as the fat man.
I know. To describe in those sort of terms, it's not really. I mean,
Jason says
it's not good form, is it?
Just stick to the section with review on Westworld and not the on the buses one. You probably haven't done Westworld yet, have you?
No, Westworld? No,
this is remember the movie I was telling you about, with Yul Brynner, where the place is like a holiday destination for adults, and it's all about robots. They've made a new TV series out of it, which is now on Sky, I understand.
Okay.
Craig says the plank struggles getting it right in one section, let alone two. Sports Direct shirt-wearing fool.
Yeah, I don't think that's very fair either.
No. David says, you might as well say England have no manager. Professor Southgate is a creche coordinator. England will play better managerless.
Yeah. Do you know what? Some of the papers, tonight or tomorrow morning, I mean, they've gone so big on Southgate. Pictures of him when he was 12. And, and this is where we go wrong in this country because we make out the England manager to be like equivalent to the Prime Minister in a different form of the culture of our country.
I suppose we can't have it both ways, though, because having having done that, we then expected the behaviour of Sam Allardyce to be as sort of effortlessly, shall we say, equitable, and full of ethics.
Sure,
as somebody else who's in a very high office.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with all of that. But
he hasn't got the job yet either, has he?
That's what I'm saying. Not only has he not got the job, but I mean, to me, he's never been. I think people are forgetting. Only 6 months ago, the FA restructured the responsibilities he had within the FA because he was managing too many teams and
they wanted him to concentrate on under 21.
That's right, and he didn't have a grip on it. But anyway, here we go.
Well, I mean, the headline on the back of the Daily Mail ends a shame.
Yes.
I mean, we've all witnessed that there's been some bad England performances. There's no shame particularly attached to it.
Gareth Southgate's all decided to put the pride back into English football during a rousing address to his players. So can you see Gareth Southgate? Now, I want you lot to end the shame. Do you understand? I will not stand for anything less. End the shame. Otherwise, you're out of this dressing room. You're out the England team. You're out forever.
Well, I was wondering if he might do the sort of Henry V speech at Agincourt.
Yeah.
Let any man who was not here regret it for the rest of his life, that kind of thing.
Yes,
But I can't really see that working either.
Or maybe the Gettysburg Address.
Well, that would be the wrong country, though, wouldn't it?
Well, yes, it would, but I mean, it's supposed to be one of the greatest speeches ever. How many words were there in the Gettysburg Address?
I don't know.
No, go on, you do know.
Well, there's a few hundred. It's quite a small number, isn't it?
272.
272. I don't know. Why would you say I know that?
Well, I thought, you lived in America for 10 years. I thought you might have known a bit of its culture.
Well, I do know a bit of its culture, but I have not memorised how many words are on the Gettysburg Address.
272 words in the Gettysburg Address.
I seem to remember that we did a quiz. Which included that question.
Yeah.
And you didn't get that right.
And
also, you say 272, and I have no reason to know whether that's true. Because
we'll check it out on your information machine.
James says this. Porky, you numpty, Kent play at Canterbury and Royal Tunbridge Wells.
Yes.
And Beckenham, not Rochester or Maidstone.
There are cricket grounds there where representative teams of the county have played on a number of occasions. Because I've been to watch one of them on one occasion.
Well, maybe you thought you were watching Kent, but
when
in fact
I had friends in Maidstone, we went there to watch a cricket match.
Maybe it was Emmanuel Kant you were watching.
Now, excuse me.
What about
inferences like that, please?
What about Jerry Bartland? He's on the back pages again this morning. What are you going to do with this guy?
I just don't get this. I mean, our colleagues in the written press think this is a big story. For instance, there's a whole page here which says Barton in dock over 44 bets. Troubled star charges multiple wages on games. I mean, I just don't get it.
Well, I was wondering, and people have asked this question before. Jerry Barton writes another book, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And which is currently now riding quite high, number 4 in the bestseller charts. A lot of people are buying it. A lot of people are reading it. Is it at all conceivable that he only went to Rangers as a publicity stunt to sell his book? Has a big row with Warburton, has a big row with the players, plays absolutely dreadfully in the only old firm game it looks like he'll ever take part in.
Yeah.
Now, somehow is found to have been betting illegally or certainly against the rules of football business.
He's been betting contrary to the the agreements within football. I agree, yeah.
But I mean,
I don't know.
He's either very, very stupid or very, very clever, is he? I can't decide.
I don't know. I have to say, he attracts publicity for some unknown reason. In fact, I read a piece in the column of a revered Fleet Street journalist the other day who asked this very question.
Right.
Why do we all take so much notice of Joey Barton, a very average footballer?
Yeah, very average footballer.
Whose international career lasted one substitute appearance, whose ability to rub everybody up the wrong way is legendary, and whose off-the-field behaviour is so bad he's lucky to still be a professional footballer.
And who also, talks as though he is Lionel Messi. When he was after the Old Firm game, when he was castigated for not playing terribly well, and that was what the big row was about at Rangers training ground. He got suspended for 3 weeks. He was all about, I wanted them to make sure that they knew how important this game was.
Yes.
I wanted them to know that, I've played at much higher levels than this.
Yes.
And this is the lowest level of football I've ever played at. I mean, he talks as if he's, some kind of genius.
But he also said he was the best player in Scotland.
Yeah.
I mean, and he wasn't even the best player on that pitch that
he wasn't.
day.
No,
he wasn't even the best player in his own team.
No. I mean, the Celtic captain, Mr. Brown, took care of all that.
Yeah,
so I find it very perverse
Yes.
that he would either continually get himself into this kind of trouble by getting into headlines for the wrong reasons, or whether he sees everything as an opportunity to sell more books.
Well, if he does, I suppose, you've got to be cynical about it and say that's the way of the world. But nevertheless, I agree. Now, other things are, Ms. Karen Brady, or Dame what's her name? Dame
Brady.
Dame Brady, I suppose, is it? Yeah,
Dame Brady.
Yeah.
Why do you say it with such rancour?
I'm not saying with rancour. I'm saying that everybody wanted to take... By the way, there's a load of stuff on Swansea corner. Jason Levian has defended the club's decision to appoint fellow American Bob Bradley as boss. Bobcat Bob Bradley. By the way, I've had an email from somebody saying, Mike, is your good American mate Skip Bornhooter going to take the deputy's job?
Should we have a listen? Should we have a listen to a bit of the Bobcat Bob at his first interview with Swans TV?
Yes.
Here we go. I'm very proud. I'm honoured to be the manager for Swansea City Football Club, a club that I have incredible respect for, passion of the supporters. I certainly understand what the Jock Army is all about, and I'm really proud to be here. I think in recent years the football's been great, and so it's a club that not only has gotten results, but it's a club that has played passing football, fun to watch, and then most of all, then you know that it's a club that has such support, and so the connection between the club and the community and the kind of passion with the supporters, for me, that is so important, and I am proud to be here and to work every day to make sure that we step on the field and always remember how much our team means for our supporters.
He actually sounds more like somebody out of The Sopranos than he does from Boss Hogg.
He does. He kind of holds the American vowels, you know. Incredibly proud of being
maybe an offer he can refuse.
Yeah, and I have it as a club. I have incredible respect for.
What about the Jack Army? What about the Jack Army? What's he going on about?
Did you say the Jack Army or the Dock Army?
Well, I think he wanted to say the Jack Army. I think it came out funny.
I think it's the Dock Army.
I'm sure it's the Jack Army.
Swansea Docks, isn't it?
No, it's the Swansea Jack Army, I'm sure.
Well, they call them Jack Army.
They call themselves the Jack Army, yeah.
The Jack Army. Yeah. But I was going to say, when he said, Swansea are a club I have incredible respect for, I bet you this time last week, if somebody had said, hey, Bob, point out Swansea on the world map. What? What?
I think you've been very harsh on him. I still think he's going to be a success. I will maintain that line throughout the season.
I am incredibly proud. Have incredible respect for this club and the Duck Army. Oh, the Jack Army.
The Jack Army is amongst other things, the message board used by Swansea City fans. And they call themselves the Jack Army.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, I've never heard of that.
Have you never heard of it?
Well, you know what?
You've been around football for decades.
You know what happens? You know, when these guys come from like a million miles away, they immediately sort of get into the local culture as quickly as possible. Yeah. Much more so than any locals.
Louis Van Gaal's army when he came out and started singing Louis Van Gaal's army.
Louis Van Gaal's army. Louis Van Gaal's army. Look how that got him.
I know. It didn't get
I wonder if the Jack Army will jack off Bob.
I'm not sure you can say that. This is a family show.
Really, exactly,
I don't think you can get away with that. Anyway, we'll hear some more from Bobcat Bob coming up a little bit later on. We will have Porkyvision. At the moment, it looks like there's going to be two sections of it because a lot of people are voting 65% at the moment for two sections of Porkyvision. Can we not put this to an end, please? This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Have you been gerrymandering the Twitter account of the Two Mics by any chance?
No.
There's been some very odd tweets coming in.
Go on.
How about this one from G-Biz, who says, best review on the radio, could MG refrain from interrupting Porky during this section, please?
Exactly.
Patrick says, best television review in the universe, that's all.
Thank you.
Dear God. Yeah. How about this one, though, from Ben, who doesn't appreciate you or I quite so much. I'm not sure who he's aiming it at, because it's sent to at IROMG and at Mike Parry 8. Yeah. I cannot believe how you still managed to steal a living as a broadcaster, and you'll be too scared to read this out.
Who's that from?
This is from Ben Gilbert.
Okay, Gilbert Ben or Ben Gilbert?
Well, Ben Gilbert, I think. Yeah.
Okay, well, Ben Gilbert.
He's a Reading fan.
Reading fan. Yeah. Well, Reading deserves fans like you, Ben, and you deserve Reading. Let me put it that way. Okay, there's nothing wrong with Reading. And the Majeski Stadium, and Mr. Majeski, a brilliant man who's revived the club and supported them for so many years. But you are a Jewshead, pal.
That's very unkind.
Yes.
But thank you very much for listening anyway, Ben.
Yes.
Do carry on. Porkyvision coming up a little bit later on. We've got Tommy Smith to talk to right now because it is International Week. There's been a couple of other decent stories to talk about, so let's try and do that. Tommy, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How is it going?
Now, not bad at all. Now,
well.
I mean, you maybe like us do not exactly get thrilled with the prospect of sort of, 10 days or more of international break type football, particularly when England are taking on Malta. So, I mean, tell us what's going to be exciting about the next few days. I mean, Wales-Austria tonight might be actually a better game to get involved in and watch.
Yeah, it certainly could be, especially now the Austrian coaches making statements that, I'd say is not sitting too well with Welsh fans or with the Welsh hierarchy. Like he said, Wales were very lucky to advance as far as they did in the Euros. So, I mean, he stoked the fire a little bit. He might live to regret saying that if Bale gets going,
Yeah, absolutely right. But, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, here we are with the big scandal of last week when Sam Allardyce got the heave-ho and now we've got Gareth Southgate in talking about, bringing the pride back to English football. But when they're only playing Malta, I mean, it's a bit tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you don't beat Malta, Gareth better pack his bags already. Have them packed now and just start going. I mean, England have to beat Malta, and they have to do it impressively. I think the one thing that's still going to throw a little bit of a spanner in the works is that I seen Wayne Rooney said the day that Big Sam hung him out to dry by saying that Wayne Rooney could play anywhere he wanted on this English team. And he said he's been getting slaughtered for it. So, it'll be interesting to see how this all works out with Gareth as the manager. I mean, he's not the most exuberant person in the world, and he's not going to fire up a lot of people. It'll be interesting to see how his managerial skill at this level is.
Well, OK, Tom. And the only evidence we've got of his managerial skill on a long-term basis before this is at Middlesbrough, where he got fired because he was no good at managing a team of players and making them play the way that he thought they should play. So the difficulty here, Tommy, is that actually there's so little competitive opposition to Gareth Southgate to be the England manager if you want an Englishman to do it. And that is the truism of life in this country. We don't have any great English coaches.
Yeah, it's turning out to be a huge problem, isn't it?
Yes.
And I mean, the way things are going is probably going to even get worse.
Yes.
I mean, as life stands now, where are you getting English coaches to get any good experience?
Yeah.
There's not really. I mean, there's a few young coaches around that might be fit to manage the team, but, when you look at it realistically, I mean, there is nobody on the horizon that you're going to point a finger and say, OK, there's your next English manager.
Well,
Eddie
Howe, I suppose, is the man who would be in the frame for that sort of accolade if you were going to find anybody. But generally speaking, it will get worse from the fact that most players in the Premier League are millionaires by the time they're 21. Why would they want to take on the stresses and strains of football management 10 years after that? They just won't do it. And the next great, coaches, managers in this country will be men who are at the moment managing teams in the Championship and the First and Second Division.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part of it. But maybe it might turn out okay for England. Maybe they might have more incentive to do better and go ahead and really put their head down and get something. And maybe they wouldn't be intimidated by some of these guys that are making so much money, because I think that has to be a factor, Mike. I mean, when you're dealing with guys that are making that kind of money in the Premier League every week, they have to be a little bit difficult to deal with.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking about this because it was revealed yesterday on the back of the Times that Southgate's getting £500,000 for these 4 matches, which to you and I and to most people is a huge amount of money.
It's just ridiculous.
But £125,000 a game to the people who he's supposed to be coaching is actually not very much at all.
No, I mean, it's chump change, really. But I would take $125,000 and manage the team against Malta if they'd asked me. I mean, it would have been a great day out and it would have been a great payday, and I probably could come up with a pretty good win. So could either of you guys.
Yes, no, I think you're absolutely right. But that is the problem, isn't it? I mean, you said, of course, England are going to beat Malta. It's not so much about the score line and the points. It's more about the performance, isn't it? Because Sam Allardyce's team went out into Slovakia and didn't look that different from what Roy Hodgson had put out there. And he got a bit fortunate with the last-minute goal, so he got the first win and his only win. But, the England team, generally speaking, isn't going to get changed dramatically by Gareth Southgate, is it?
Well, it shouldn't, but that'll be the interesting thing to see. Will he come in and say, OK, guys, I want this job. I'm not just the interim manager for 4 games. I want this job. And will he make a few changes? Maybe that catches the eye. I mean, can you realistically say after the Euros that England had that this English team picks itself? That, you know the 11 players that should be on there. I think he has a little bit of room here to manoeuvre, and I think he has a bit of room to experiment a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely right. What about Ireland? What the Republic of Ireland played tonight against Georgia, Thursday night, that is, of course. And how do you expect Northern Ireland to do in this qualifying round?
Well, I would expect the Republic of Ireland will have a big, big game. And I know one of you guys would be very interested in what he does with James McCarthy because, there's questions. Is he fit enough to play? He hasn't been able to play for Everton for a couple of weeks. And, Martin O'Neill said he never played a player that's not fit. Georgia will be a very tough opponent. You know that they're going to be very defensive-minded. And, O'Neill's going to have to the team's going to have to break them down. I mean, they came up with a pretty good result against Austria. Austria beat them 2-1, but Ireland beat them twice in the qualifying for the Euros. So, Georgia are going out with a bit of a chip on their shoulder, feeling that they owe Ireland something. So this could be a very interesting game. And again, they have a game coming up with Moldova later on next week. Ireland really need 3 points out of this one if they're going to stay in this group because, it's not the toughest group in the world, but it's going to be a group that's going to be pretty difficult to win because you got Wales, you got Austria, and, you got these minnows that you have to be very careful of.
Right, exactly. And the biggest problem as well for an awful lot of Premier League clubs, and this includes players that have to go all the way to South America to play over there, is the injury problem, isn't it? I mean, because it's quite a crucial time of the Premier League season. They're out now for 10 days away from their clubs. The hope is, from most fans' point of view, they don't come back injured.
Yeah, I mean, the timing on these internationals, I mean, that first timing was terrible. This was a little bit better. I mean, at least they're a few weeks into the season. But I think they have to do something about it and try to say, okay, we'll take 2 weeks off, and in the 2 weeks we'll play 3-4 games, and then we won't take a break for X amount of months. Because, I mean, you're really disrupting the club teams. And, I mean, it's not just qualifying. There's qualifying in CONMEBOL tonight as well, in Brazil and Argentina. So it's players from all around the world that's going to be affected. And there's qualifying in Africa, there's qualifying in Asia. So you just can't, if you're good players now, you can't avoid these things. They're going to be picked, and you gotta put up with it. But I think the timing is a little bit off. I don't know about you guys, but I think they should do something with it.
Well, I have to say, and Porky may accuse me of being unpatriotic here, but I mean, I just sort of heave a huge sigh of relief when the international break's finally over and we get back to Premier League football and Champions League football, which I much prefer to watch.
Yeah, I mean, most people feel the same as you. I mean, we all kind of, it's one of these things that has to happen because the World Cup has to happen, so we have to have the qualifying. But surely there has to be a better way of doing it because most people's interest is in the club game, and it's coming, at a juncture where, the club teams are just starting to roll along now. They're starting to get to know one another, new players, everything else. And here you go, you're away again for 10 days. So I think it's not ideal at all.
OK, Tommy. Well, listen, we'll be watching it with some interest, not as much interest perhaps England-Malta as you'd like to have. But thank you very much indeed. Tommy Smith there from ESPN. Got a few more voting type related tweets.
Excellent.
Here. William says, MG, can I have 4 votes like Porky has in elections? I can vote no 4 times then. Well, he's referring to you being registered in 4 different electoral roles around the country.
That's a bit harsh.
Magoo says, why don't you do 15 minutes each? That way at least we might get some decent reviews from old IROMG.
Yeah, forget that. Dave the Villa fan says, yes please to more Porkyvision. Love it. Looking forward to seeing you guys in Liverpool. That refers of course to our next live show, which is on November the 4th, the night before Bonfire Night, Friday night in the O2 in Liverpool.
It's going to be a fiery night in Liverpool, isn't it?
Is, yeah.
Fantastic.
And then there's one here from, I don't know, some guy doesn't put his name on it.
You don't know?
He says, hang on, he says, yes, so old Porky says he's never heard of the Jack Army. Where's he been for the last 70 years? Pension the guy off, he's boring. He's talking about me.
Well, he is
Oh,
talking
sorry,
about
that's
you.
some guy called Trevor.
Trevor, yeah.
That is a
well,
bit
I mean,
harsh.
most people have heard of the Jack Army. I mean, it's not a complete
I've never heard of the Jack
mystery.
Army.
Nick says this: Why not give Southgate a chance and hang him after failure, not before? Never heard such nonsense from you both. Normally, all the crap comes from just Porky, not both of you. Well, hang on, Nick.
Yeah.
I mean, we're giving Southgate a chance. He's already been given the caretaker job by the FA.
Yes.
What I'm saying is that if some of the newspapers who are now sort of pumping him up and saying that he's making rousing speeches are to be believed, he's going to change the face of English football.
I mean, I
just don't see it happening.
You see, I don't accept this line. Gareth Southgate has ordered, so he said to the players, put the pride back into English football during a rousing address to his players. Where did this rousing address take place? And where was this? I mean, how can you instruct a footballer? He instructed them to put the pride back into English football. Well, if they're not good enough to beat the teams they play in World Cup competitions, they can't put the pride back into English football, I'm sorry.
And also, pride is all very well. I mean, it's not so much pride they need, it's just a bit more skill and a bit more kind of aptitude and a bit more resilience and a bit more, it's all very well to go on about passion and pride and all that, but it doesn't actually win you matches, does it?
Yeah, no, of course it doesn't. No, I totally agree. Beating your chest doesn't necessarily mean you're going to score goals.
Well, I mean, look at Joe Hart.
Other teams.
Joe Hart went out beating his chest, beating everything he could find.
That's right.
And then the first thing he did was let goal in.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's all very well being. I mean, the thing about passion now is it gets overused. You see that guy who was running his something like his 400 and something marathon.
In 401 days.
Yeah, I mean,
401 marathons, 401 days.
And I mean, a very admirable character. Apparently, he's running and collecting money for a bullying charity and all this. But he was being interviewed by somebody I was watching earlier on yesterday.
Yes.
Who was running alongside him, dressed as a runner. Yes. With one of those big hairy microphones.
I know,
on TV.
Yeah.
And the question was, why are you doing it? He said, well, I have a passion for it.
Yeah.
And it just struck me that's what everybody says now.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got a passion for it.
I've got a passion for this.
And he was like a real life sort of Forrest Gump because there were all these people running along with him, right? And they were saying, oh, yeah, I just got caught up in it all. It was like the scene from the Forrest Gump movie when they all started running across the country.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody starts
Bizarre,
running.
isn't it?
Yeah, very odd indeed. Very odd indeed.
Right. Anyway, we've got lots more to do. The vote
have.
currently stands on the issue of whether Porkyvision should be extended to two sections. The yes, maybe we should do it like the House of Commons. The ayes, 63%.
Yes.
The noes, 37% at the moment.
Thank you so much for your support.
Hang on, we haven't closed it yet. 196 votes in. We're going to keep it going for another hour until I win. This is Talk Sport.
Vote Porky.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics, and we've got lots and lots of great tweets. You can send those in at the Two Mics, at Mike Parry, at IROMG. I meant to ask you, actually, in the first hour of the show, how your day went, because yesterday you told us you were going to have engineers crawling all over your place trying to fix your heating system.
Yes, that's
how
right.
Did that all go?
It went well. The guys arrived, thoroughly good people, went through the process of tracing, all the electronic impulses in the system.
Is there a problem with the system?
Yes,
It's not working?
Yes, they found a problem. And that is that the electronic gadgetry that heats the water is in conflict with the electronic gadgetry that heats the house.
Oh, really?
And
so the boiler's a problem then?
No, the boiler's not a problem. It's the electronic box that sends signals to the boiler and to the radiators and to everything else.
Okay.
And that's got to be separated and done again.
Oh, right. So they don't need a new boiler then?
No, it doesn't need a new boiler. It needs a new control panel.
But at the moment, you don't really need a heating yet, do you? I mean, you need hot water, obviously. You don't need any heat yet. It's not cold enough, really, for that, is it?
It is in the... When I get up at 4:30...
Well, I suppose at 4:30 it might be cold.
You can feel...
Well, I did have the first fire, actually. I did tell you that last weekend.
Yes.
Because it was a bit nippy
first fire, you told me
in
that.
Sussex, yeah.
Well, inside the house
inside,
or outside?
Yeah. No, inside.
Because you've been lighting fires outside the house.
I had an outside fire as well, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I very much enjoy that.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad you do.
Yeah.
Now then, what about this... the other night we said, what is all this about? Judo. Rugby players practicing judo.
Yeah.
Whilst
you weren't convinced, were you?
No. Whilst footballers at Spurs are being told to get into cage fighting.
That's right, yeah.
To try and, improve their upper body strength, wriggling out from under some guy pinning them to the floor.
Yes.
Well, the result of that, and you were all for it. You tried to make out you're some kind of judo expert.
I did not at all. I said I did karate for a couple of years.
Yeah, karate. Okay. No, the weight of your body is what you use in martial arts to gain the advantage over your opponent.
Well, that's true. But it's actually the weight. No, it's the weight of their body you use. You actually use their own weight against them. That's the whole point of it.
So anyway, Eddie Jones, he's the England rugby manager, right?
Yes, who you have great admiration for.
Great admiration for. He's won 9 out of 9 so far, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And there's another, 6
And he's still not happy. He says, he wants more from them.
Six-country series, what's it called? Six-nation series coming up,
Well,
right?
also there's the autumn tests, which come first.
And the autumn tests come first.
Yeah.
That's another 3, isn't it? Is it 3?
Usually,
So that could be 12, yeah. So anyway, we now read this. Sam Jones broke his right leg while grappling with rival Maro Itoje during a judo session at the England Rugby Union squad's training camp in Brighton.
Yeah, Itoje's that very, very talented young player, isn't he?
Exactly.
Who absolutely runs through people, a bit like Jonah Lomu used to.
That's right. So how brilliant is that then? How brilliant is that? Introducing judo and breaking the leg of a crucial member of your squad. What a ridiculous situation to find yourself in.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Well, I think, unfortunately, it's just one of those accidents that happens. I mean, people get injured in training quite often in football. People get injured on the football pitch for no good reason. I remember when Theo Walcott came on and got carried off in that game against Spurs.
Yes.
When he famously got coins thrown at him because he was holding up fingers for the score.
2-0.
And he basically didn't really actually even do. He just injured himself.
That's right. Yeah.
These things happen in sport.
Yeah.
I don't think you can castigate the judo people or indeed Eddie Jones for it.
Well, I'm sorry, but I mean, if you suddenly introduce a new method of training which you say will improve the fitness levels of my players, and one of them ends up with a broken leg, then I'm sorry, but you've got it wrong.
Well, it's not
as
ideal.
simple as that.
It's not ideal, but I think, as you know, accidents do happen.
Well, accidents happen, certainly, but that wasn't an accident waiting to happen. That was a specific policy instigated by a set of coaches who should rise to high professional standards who got it wrong.
Well, there's no
as simple as that.
Well, there's no suggestion in the stories I'm looking at that they're going to discontinue the policy.
Oh, really? Oh, let's break a few more legs then, eh?
Well, no, it says it's a new drill, and despite the fact that this guy, Sam Jones, is going to be ruled out of the test, it's not going to change the way that they train the players.
Utterly ridiculous.
Well, so you say that.
Yeah.
Now, when I was telling you earlier about something that you would love to have, but it might mean you having to get a new car.
Right.
What this is,
so
right?
What is it? Yeah.
Well, the story is that one particular car manufacturer is going to start the trials of a smartphone-powered fuel delivery service.
A
smartphone-powered fuel delivery service,
Ooh.
which means that, and it's going to kick off in California,
right?
Which might give you a clue as to who the manufacturer is.
Yes.
Basically, what's going to happen is that you send a message on your smartphone,
yes,
because you'll have an app,
yes,
and when you send a message, a petrol tanker basically comes round to where you are, and fills up your car for you.
That's not new.
Well, it is new because nobody else is doing it.
No, we've talked about this on this show before.
We have talked about it, but this is the first time that an actual car manufacturer is going to run it.
So it's going to do it, is it?
They are going to do it.
And they do it in the middle of the night while you're asleep, by the way.
They can do it whenever you want.
You just park your car on the driveway, and they come along in the middle of the night, and they have a code in which opens your fuel flip lid, you know what I mean?
Right.
And they literally just put it in, and that's it.
And I think when we spoke about it last time, you'd spotted that they were planning on it, but they're actually going to now start trials in California. Guess who the company is?
I bet it'll be somebody like Amazon or somebody like that.
No, it's Bentley.
Bentley?
It's Bentley.
Bentley, oh,
so
right.
if you've got a Bentley,
yes,
they will fill your car up wherever you are.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
So you may now wish to consider getting a Bentley.
I've considered that in the past, actually, but I've actually met somebody who's got a Bentley, so I'm quite enjoying the experience.
Oh, are you?
Yes.
What do you mean, the experience?
Well, of seeing and sitting in a Bentley.
Well, who's got a Bentley?
Well, I can't tell you.
What do you mean you can't tell me?
Well, because it's...
Is it a woman?
Yes.
A woman's got a Bentley?
Yes.
You can't go out with a woman who's got a Bentley.
Why not?
Because she's got a better car than you. So that would make you feel inferior and therefore unlike a gentleman.
I have had to get over that feeling, I must admit. I have.
Who is this woman then?
Well,
it's not Sarah, is it?
Well,
she hasn't got a Bentley, is she?
I can't go into these things.
It is, isn't it? This is why you've started going to places like Pink to buy shirts, isn't it?
Sorry? What?
Why you've started to become a bit more shall we say, charismatic?
No.
Right.
I'm not going down that road. This is, this is just one of those things that happen.
Okay.
Yes. Now,
I feel like there's a lot you're not telling me.
No. There's nothing I'm keeping from you. Believe me. Now then, what I wanted to talk to you about, right, apart from everything else, is. I love this. I noticed that, you always accuse me of always wanting to work, okay?
Yes.
And...
well, it's not an accusation. It's just a fact, isn't it?
Well...
You do always want to work.
Well, there is something I've got to tell you, and that is that, of course, we're doing the warm-up on Saturday,
We certainly are. Yeah, the second one that we've done.
And it's 11 till 2.
It's
3 hours.
a 3-hour show, yeah.
And that's because I'm told reliably the management thought our first show of 2 hours was so good, they decided to extend it by an hour to 3 hours. So,
you sure it's not because there's just no live football on?
Oh, no. But I have accepted an invitation to do a show on Sunday afternoon.
What?
Actually.
On Sunday?
Yes.
Why?
Well, it's a Clash of the Titans thing. And
Clash of the Titans.
Around here, I'm rated as a Titan, but you're not. So.
Well, I don't work Sundays, as you know.
Sorry?
I don't work Sundays.
Well, you don't get asked to work Sundays, that's why.
No, I don't do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And especially if I'm doing Saturday.
Yes. Yes.
So you've decided unilaterally already. You've already told him yes, have you?
Well, yes, I thought I should.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you've already made that decision.
Well, I was going to discuss it with you, but I was under pressure to...
Unbelievable.
To be decisive about these things.
This may change the vote for Porkyvision, because people will see your treachery for what it is.
No treachery.
And they may actually decide to say, no, don't give him 2 sections, because all he wants to do is listen to the sound of his own voice.
No treachery at all.
Who else is on this Clash of the Titans, then? How many Titans have they managed to round up for this one?
Young Jason, I believe.
Jason Cundy.
In this studio before us.
Well, that'll be interesting after your abuse of him the other night.
Well, I don't think there was too much abuse, was there?
I think it was quite a lot.
Alvin Martin. And then
they call that the Titans now, do they?
Yeah, and then some highfalutin, terribly serious and takes himself seriously newspaper journalist from Fleet Street,
right.
I presume.
Yes.
I presume, but
yeah.
I'm
well,
not
there's
sure.
usually one of them, isn't
but
there?
anyway, the reason
as long as it's not Martin Lipton.
Yeah, it could be Martin Lipton, yeah. But anyway...
well, you have a good time. I'll be quite happy spending the day with my family. So
okay, that's fine.
Not a problem.
That's fine. You laze about and...
I won't be lazing about. Don't worry about that. I'll be doing plenty.
I will continue to home my craft, which is, of course, broadcasting. Now, the reason I'm telling you all this is because I've come across in one of my legal journals, actually, a new procedure by firms of lawyers in which they will not let their people... I mean, lawyers' practices are made up of about 5 or 6 partners who get all the money, and then a host of other lawyers who
do all the work.
Yeah, do all the work and get nothing, yeah.
Well, they don't get nothing, but they don't get anything like the partners.
Well, they get, like, really average wages. I'm talking about 35, 40 grand or something like that, which in the City of London...
Do you remember
is like peasant wages?
Yeah, we used to see quite a few of these characters in those Indian restaurants up by the Strand.
In the Middle from the Middle Temple?
Yeah, from the Middle Temple and all around there. And they would always be absolutely pie-eyed.
Absolutely off their
heads.
Some
of these people. And they were not living high on the hog because they were eating at sort of the same Indian restaurants we were.
Yeah, that's right. But there's a pub, isn't there, between the end of Fleet Street and the start of the Strand on the left. Is it called the Cock?
I think it is, the Cock Tavern.
The Cock Tavern, yes. That's right. And that was full of lawyers, and particularly female lawyers, embarrassing.
Very much so.
And we used to go in there on the pull, and you're absolutely right. The women in there...
The women lawyers were the worst.
Yeah, they were. They were falling all over the place, honestly. It was a great sort of pick-up joint. But anyway, the reason I'm telling you this
But we haven't got much time for this.
Well, yeah,
do you want to just hold on to it for a minute?
Well, I don't think... Well, I can if you like, but I mean, the problem is, you see, you go through too much waffle when I'm trying to get to the core of the story.
Well, no, it's not me that waffles on. It's you that does. Well, I'll tell you what. I guarantee you that we'll take a little short break here, and then you can continue with the story about the lawyers.
Good idea.
I promise. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
That must remind you of a certain period in your life, because it does me. Pubs where there used to be jukeboxes, and it was playing all the time.
I was a reporter on the Chester Chronicle when that was big in all the discos around Chester and Newcastle when I went to work there. And a mate of mine, actually, from the Wirral, a lad called Colin, he's the boy I've told the story about who died on the Cunard ship in Venice. It docked in Venice and he didn't get off, and they went to open his cabin and found him dead.
Another one of your friends who died prematurely.
Yeah, he was 60...
Well, that's premature,
He was
isn't it?
much older than me. He was about 63 or something
like that. That's premature.
It is. But anyway, look, David in Notts sends us a note. It says, Good morning, lads. Rod Temperton. I saw him play live with Heatwave, that's the band we've just been listening to, Boogie Nights, in a small club in a mining village in Nottinghamshire in the 70s. Fantastic. His songs are timeless. As for extended Porkyvision, yes, please. Give me time to make a sandwich, put the kettle on, and visit the loo. Well, that's very nice, isn't it?
Well, there you go. So otherwise you want to hear it. Anyway, before we forget, let's go back to your story about lawyers.
Exactly.
Because we didn't get to finish it.
Exactly. So you're absolutely right. So lawyers who fail to clock up 7 hours a day at their desk will find themselves locked out of their computers. and unable to work the following day.
What, by the law firms themselves?
Yes.
Right.
The new penalty system is designed to shame partners and junior solicitors at Howard Kennedy who failed to notch up enough billable hours.
All right.
So this is to make profits for the company.
Yeah.
Because, they charge clients by the hour, and some of them charge like £500 an hour.
Sadly, I know that's much to my cost.
Exactly.
I've had the misfortune of having to hire quite a few lawyers in my life.
Divorces and all that kind of stuff, yeah. The London firm, which focuses on property and commercial law, expects its lawyers to work an average of 7 hours a day across the week and to average at least 5.6 billable hours each day.
Yeah.
Lawyers cannot charge all their work to clients' activities, such as training and supervising, are not included, which makes up the balance of the 7 hours a day. Speaking to Lawyer Magazine, Julian Hindmarsh, the real estate chairman at Howard Kennedy, said that the strong-arm tactic is designed to shame lawyers by forcing them to get their computer unlocked before they could continue with their work. I don't quite understand this locking a computer.
Well, I suppose what it means is that they're onto you. So if they say that you haven't billed for 7 hours of work or 5.5 hours of work, that they will go, look, we know that you're not doing enough.
Yes.
So now you won't be able to do anything.
Yeah, I see.
Until you kind of come up with some kind of a plan.
Okay.
Because the difficulty is that they'll bill sometimes by the quarter hour.
Yes.
And you don't really, when you see a bill, and I mean, if you remember that movie, The Devil's Advocate?
Yes.
And one of the things, I think, it was a Tom Cruise film.
Yeah.
The Firm, I think it was.
The Firm, that's right.
And the law firm that was billing...
Michael Douglas was in that as well, I think.
I think
he was.
Well, whatever it was like...
Or Al Pacino.
No, that was The Devil's Advocate.
Was it? Okay, yeah.
But it was a crooked law firm, basically.
That's right, yeah.
And they were billing people for things they hadn't done.
That's right.
And nobody really had any way of making it... I used to get bills from my lawyer, and they would have, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there.
That's right, yeah.
And you had no way of checking if they'd actually done anything.
The minimum I'm charged these days when I employ lawyers to do things like, legal disputes over tenancy agreements or something like that, it's £180 an hour.
Right.
That's minimum.
Yeah, but that's
very
cheap.
Minimum. I know it is. You're absolutely right.
Once you need a barrister, it goes up to $600 an hour.
I know,
yeah. Nonsense.
Anyway, it comes after DLA Piper, the global firm, announced that delinquent partners who failed to record 7.5 hours of work a day would have their equity drawings delayed or reduced. I don't know who DLA Piper are. It doesn't explain.
Must be another law firm, presumably.
Yeah. Other firms are understood to operate a swear jar system where lawyers are made to pay £1 every time they complete a timesheet late.
Right.
Doesn't sound much of a fine.
Doesn't really, does it? In the scheme of things.
Osborne Clark told partners to sync their diaries with their timesheets to track hours worked. This is understood to have contributed to the firm's £35.6 million revenue growth.
Oh, yeah.
Growth last year.
Right. So that's on top of what they made the year before.
Yeah, they're putting in like hundreds of millions of pounds of profits. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Law in this country is a total rip-off.
Well, you'd have to say that the law in this country has now been taken over by lawyers, not by the police, not by the government, but by lawyers. I mean, you might want to reflect on the story that we've heard about in the news all day about the fake sheikh. Because the fake sheikh is somebody we both know.
Well, that's an amazing story.
Which is an amazing story. He made a complete and utter dog's breakfast of that business with Tulisa, right? But now, according to some of the papers this morning, that guy Mark Lewis, who's a very, very sort of famous media lawyer,
yes, that's right,
is going after everybody. He's got 18 other cases, right? He's going to go after the fake sheikh, and apparently £800 million. Is what they'll only be suing for. I don't know who they're going to sue for that.
No, I've read the report, and the report specifies they don't know where he arrived at the figure of 800 million. But what he's saying is, for instance, there's one guy in America, and I can't remember who it is, who has already lodged a case for £100 million in damages against the fake sheikh.
Right.
The difficulty is that for most of the time the fake sheikh was doing this, Mahmoud Mazar, that's his name, isn't it?
No.
What's his name?
No, it's Mazir Mahmood.
Mazir Mahmood, he's the guy. Yeah, Mazir Mahmood, right. Most of the time...
Sounds like Mahmoud Bazar.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Excuse me, most of the time, Mazir, there's a picture of him, look, on our internal screens here.
Yeah,
Mazir Mahmood was doing this. He was working for the same organisation, News, who have recently had to, respond to, the long and protracted investigation into phone hacking, which, of course, in itself was a huge...
And who have recently bought TalkSport, of course.
TalkSport recently as well. Was a huge mishmash.
Yeah, I mean, the problem for him, and I guess for them as well, is that when he was doing it for the News of the World is no longer a going concern, which does not eradicate the fact that they may have to pay damages. But what it does does do is it now crosses over to the Sun, because this particular Talisa thing he did for the Sun on Sunday.
Right, yeah. And he also worked for the Sunday Times as well.
He did.
Same group.
Yeah, I can tell you a very good story about how he left the Sunday Times, but it's probably not the right time to do it.
I can tell you a great story about him. There was a former editor of the Sun who later admitted to having a chronic drink problem, right? And when old, what's his name?
Mazir
Mahmood was out one night in, like, the bar of the Dorchester or something like that, dressed as a fake sheikh.
Yeah.
Because he was in the middle of another sting, you know. The editor, who I won't name for reasons of confidentiality,
quite right,
and comradeship, because I worked with the boy, went in there and had a few, and walked over and started shaking hands with him, saying, "Hello, mate, how you doing?"
Oh dear!
When the guy was in disguise,
in
the midst of a sting. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Right. So you have to be a bit careful when you're doing this undercover work.
And he got Sven, Göran Eriksson as well, didn't he?
I couldn't remember whether it was or not, because in the reports I've read, they've highlighted a few famous cases. They didn't highlight the Sven one. That was on the yacht, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that was where he was the original fake sheikh, or at least as far as everybody kind of knew him as the fake sheikh.
Yes.
Interesting stuff. Anyway, we'll watch that one with some interest. But my point about it was that the lawyers will now, move in.
Oh, of course they will.
And the amount of money that will be made off the back of this will be absolutely prodigious. Ian says this, Temperton was Heatwave's keyboard player. Check out Dreaming You from Candles, a beautiful song.
Was he really?
Apparently so. Well, that's what Ian says.
Yeah, amazing.
A couple of people have sent out nice pictures of your prospective missus with a Bentley. How about that?
Oh, that's fantastic.
If only that were true.
Well, exactly. But, I mean, that is a wonderful picture and very elegantly portrayed by the lady lying in front of the Bentley.
There's one slightly less elegant that you won't like quite as much.
Let's have a look.
Porky in his new shirt with his new girlfriend. Oh, hang on, I've lost it.
So you lost that there. Look. Let's have a look.
It's Parker and Penelope.
Oh, Parker and Lady Penelope, yeah. Well, to be compared to one of the iconic figures of the entertainment world over the last
Parker?
50 years. No, Lady Penelope
right.
is somewhat gratifying.
Oh, okay. Sandra just put out a tweet saying she's coming on the show. It's a glorious afternoon in Sydney.
Lovely.
So we'll be talking to her very, very soon.
Indeed.
And G. O'Hara says Gene Hackman was in the firm. I think I remember that.
Was he?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I do remember that.
It was a great film, actually, that.
It was a great film. Now then, have we spoken yet? We haven't, have we, about Lady Brady? Because
we sort of touched upon it, didn't we?
Lady Brady, but she got herself into a bit of a pickle, didn't she? By
she
talking
did.
about the culture of the club.
Yes,
I think. What's all that about?
Well, she's since tried to defend it. She basically was at some expo where she was interviewed about the whole idea of West Ham and the new stadium and all the rest of it.
Yes,
and basically she's made the back of the papers this morning because she dropped a bit of a clanger because although she said she didn't mean to suggest that the culture of West Ham was somehow wrong, she basically came out and said that the West Ham Football Club didn't really have the right culture when Messrs Gold and Sullivan took over and she took over, and that they've now changed that by moving to a new stadium, by making it more kind of, financially viable. Yeah. And a lot of West Ham fans and others took the view that she was basically having a swipe at the way that West Ham was run.
That's right.
But also the way that West Ham fans behaved.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
She's now saying, oh, I didn't mean that. What I meant was the corporate culture was wrong.
Yes, that's right. She also says that the move to the new stadium has been well received and that she has restyled the image of West Ham. But I'm sorry, I think she's done a wonderful job in football. I think she's a great football administrator, but that's completely contrary to the evidence of what's happened since the move to the bowling. By the way...
But she didn't mention any of the problems they've had, like, for example, with policing,
that's what I mean.
with crowd trouble and all that.
That's what I mean. She says well received. And by the way, I saw a fantastic spread this morning in one of our newspapers. They went back to the bowling to look at it. It's fallen to pieces now, obviously, because it's closed down. But it's
Have they not knocked it down yet?
No, they've knocked it down. It's just got all those big wooden panels around it. But the main story, it was great, is there is a pub called The Bowling right on the corner, which I've been in many times myself, when I've been to West Ham.
Right.
It's on 3 floors. It takes 25,000 every Saturday lunchtime when West Ham are home.
What, pounds?
Pounds. Yeah. When West Ham played in the bowling next door. Yeah. Guess what it takes now?
On a Saturday?
£250.
Really?
Nobody goes there anymore.
Wow.
And I'm afraid that, it looks doomed.
So it won't be able to stay open in a pub that size?
I wouldn't have thought so, because the street in which West Ham's ground, I think it's Green, is it Green Lane? Green Street, I'm not sure.
I can't remember.
But anyway, I used to walk down there from the tube station, and there were always a few shops that were kind of, vacant and for rent and all that. Now apparently they're 2 a day,
Really?
2 a week. Are finding themselves in difficulties.
Well, I mean, it's a residential area. You'd think there'd be enough people there to keep the community going, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, when you get such a boost of trade, once a fortnight, which literally 10 times your takings on a normal day, for once a fortnight, that keeps you going.
Yeah.
Some businesses are so seasonal, they keep going for work they do between October and April, if you see what I mean. And all those businesses around West Ham's ground looked forward so much to those fortnightly boosts in revenue.
Well, from 250 quid to 25,000 is more than 10 times. It's 100 times, isn't it?
Hey?
Oh,
yeah, 100 times. Yeah, sure, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, we've got lots more coming up, including Sandra Lee from Australia, who's coming next.
Do you come from a land down under? Women go and men plunder. Can't you hear the thunder? You better run, you better take cover.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Porkyvision. Looks like it's going to be an extended version tonight because so many people have decided that they want to hear 10 minutes, double 10 minutes from Porky this week because he says he's got so much to do. You may regret this, because the vote is very firmly in your favour, I have to say, at the moment. However, let's talk to Sandra Lee before any of that. She's our favourite Australian, of course, from Sydney, Australia. Sandra, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you two chaps.
Now, very, very nice to have you on, as ever. There's only one story I'm interested in, which we'll get to a bit later, because I want to talk about the star of one of your books, Sabi, right? The dog that was taken prisoner of war by the Taliban. This is something you've told us about before, but you were at a ceremony yesterday, I understand.
Yes, that's right. Sabi, who was an explosive detection dog for the Australian Army and who did a couple of tours of duty in Afghanistan with her handler. She passed away early last year in 2015 of brain cancer, the poor love. Anyway, her handler very generously donated her mortal remains to the War Memorial, Australian War Memorial in Canberra, and they decided to have her body preserved. And yesterday was the unveiling of her, and now she's on permanent display at the War Memorial in Australia, in Canberra, to let everybody know the valuable work that these incredible four-legged soldiers do.
Yeah. And how long was she held hostage by the Taliban?
For 13 months, she was taken prisoner of war. Yeah, she was taken prisoner of war after one of Australia's most hard-fought and deadly firefights with the Taliban, in which one of the soldiers was later awarded the prestigious Victoria Cross.
Wow, that's amazing. And when she was released, was she in good health? I mean, they didn't torture the poor dog or anything like that, did they?
No, they didn't torture her, and she was actually sort of kidnapped or paw-napped, dog-napped by one of the American Special Forces soldiers when he realised who she was. The Taliban had kept her in pretty good nick simply because they knew how valuable she was, and they were trying to trade her back for captured Taliban soldiers and leaders. And, of course, there was never going to be a trade for the dog and for the Taliban because the Taliban said that they wanted more soldiers than what they thought they should get.
God, that's it. That is utterly incredible that a nation's heart can go out, in such a magnificent way to... as you quite rightly say, a dumb animal, a four-legged friend. It's astonishing and says an awful lot about the people of Australia.
Yes, but I'll take issue with you there, Mike. She's not a dumb animal. She's an incredibly smart animal.
No, but she doesn't speak. She doesn't speak. That's all I'm saying.
Well, no, she does speak. I mean,
she does speak.
Dogs communicate with their owners. I mean, especially a dog this clever who's able to communicate in so many different ways.
Okay,
you
sorry.
made a terrible blunder.
No, I haven't made a terrible blunder. Sorry, Sandra. What was the last conversation you had with the dog? Did you talk to the dog about whether it go surfing? Whether it's frightened of sharks? Because
why are you attacking this poor dead dog?
I'm not.
There you are.
I described it.
Just because you made a mistake, you're now attacking a dead dog.
I described it as a dumb animal because that's what dogs are. Horses are dumb, dogs are dumb, sheep are dumb.
Rubbish.
They cannot speak, okay?
Yeah, I wish you were dumb. I wish you were dumb. Then you wouldn't be able to make so many mistakes.
You are dumb, you dumb. I won't call you what I think you are, but anyway, you're a dumb.
See how he gets when he makes a mistake? He tries so horribly badly to cover it all up that he starts abusing everybody. And even you were about to get a lambasting from him.
No, not at all.
Yes, you were. All right, I'll tell you what. Well, I mean, were you not going to write a sort of sequel to Sabi, the book, Sandra, as well?
Well, I might write one, actually, because the love affair of Australians with this dog is incredible. It knows no bounds.
Yeah.
You know, there were several hundred people there yesterday, just the public, general people, who turned up to have a look at Sabi, and it's incredible. You know, the people wiping tears away when they read her story, when they read how many lives she'd saved, how many sort of, bombed, improvised explosive devices she'd found, how she even managed to sort of track down in one of those mud hut walls a whole cache of weapons that had been buried into the mud bricks, as well as, for this dumb dog, she even managed to find detonators that were hidden in the mobile telephone.
Yeah.
And have they stuffed her?
Not bad for a dumb animal.
Is Sabi now a stuffed dog?
Stuffed?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I'm sorry. What is her physical presence? I thought...
Her remains.
Yeah, that's... But why didn't they stuff her? Why didn't they stuff her and put her in a glass case?
She's in a glass case, and her remains have been preserved in taxidermy.
That's what I mean. She's a stuffed
Well,
dog.
so she is stuffed.
Well, we prefer to say mounted or preserved. It sounds much
mounted
nicer.
or preserved. Yeah. Well, you see, Mike Graham here was just mocking me there, saying no, of course they didn't. He thought.
I didn't think you did that sort of thing anymore in Australia. I thought you were a sort of lefty-leaning liberal place. You wouldn't allow that sort of behaviour.
Well, I think there was some consternation from some quarters, but effectively the handler, the Australian Army handler, Sergeant Warrant Officer Simpson, he decided it was going to be a great thing to do simply so that everybody who goes to the War Memorial, should they care to look, they can then see what valuable work these dogs and their dog handlers do. I mean, these are the guys who go out before any other Army patrol to make sure that their way is cleared from improvised explosive devices.
Absolutely. I think it's wonderful. And I have to say, Sandra, I don't think you should feel any shame in exploiting the memory of this beautiful dog who is in the hearts of all Australians to make yourself a few tawdry quid, you know what I mean, just to earn a living. Don't feel any shame in that respect whatsoever.
Porky's got a new girlfriend, Sandra, so I think the thing is he's not now any longer trying to chat you up. So his tone with you, I've noticed, has changed completely since the last time we spoke to you.
What has he got, a cat? Is that why he's so down on dogs?
Yeah, well, he's down on dogs because the dog that he did have actually committed suicide. And in fact, I've got a note here from Al. He says, no wonder Mike Parry's dog committed suicide. Poor dog.
No,
but that's another story.
Yeah.
Let's talk instead about the other incredible story, which Porky doesn't want to talk about. It's about the guy who got bitten twice on his penis by a poisonous spider.
God. We have to talk about this.
Why not?
Well, I mean, it's I don't think a lady like Sandra will want to talk about men being bitten in their private parts. To be honest,
well, she didn't mind answering questions like put to her like that in the Essex house, though.
I'm not even going there, Sandra. I mean, if you don't want to discuss this tawdry story about
it's not a tawdry story; it's a news story.
I think, look, on a family show like ours, I'm not sure it's appropriate. What is the story anyway, Mr. Graham?
Well, what I find astonishing, and maybe you can explain this, Sandra, is how it happened twice in the same rather delicate part of his anatomy.
Well, that's what I find astonishing as well. Twice. You have to think once bitten, twice shy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
However, he was a tradie on a work site, and they have those portable loos, and it was in the redback spider was hiding in the portable loo simply because out there in the hot sun they get warm, and spiders like hot spots to hide in. And he sat down on the dunny, as we call them here, and he was doing his business the first time, and he got nipped on the lower region.
Yes. Yeah.
And then about 5 weeks later, he's back on the same work site, and he's I think he was couldn't hold on any longer, and he realised that the toilet had been cleaned that day, so he thought he was safe.
Right.
He went back, did the same thing. And yowza, bitten the second time
Blimey.
on almost the same spot.
I mean, he's got to be one of the most unlucky guys in the world.
Well, one of the most stupid.
Well, even I know, though, with these outside dunnies, because, I mean, having met people like yourself and others from Australia, they've always said, if you ever go to one of these places, the spiders tend to hang around inside them.
Yeah, I mean, God.
Yeah, they do. And in fact, until, most households were plumbed in the early 1960s, everyone had the outside dunny up in the backyard. Yeah. And that was the thing you always had to beware of.
Yeah, I bet you did. Yeah, I mean, if I went in there, I'd go with an ammonia spray or something and spray everything in sight before I would venture to use anything like that. A disgraceful story.
And I mean, luckily, well, it's not. It's just a story. You've got this kind of bizarre Victorian attitude to talking about anything to do with genitalia, sex, women. I don't know what the problem is.
No. It's just that I'm an educated man, and I don't reduce myself to those levels. I tell you, there is a story here, Sandra, which I want to talk to you about. You may or may not be aware aware of it, but there's a guy called Jonathan Peake, and he's from Queensland University of Technology in Brisbane. Is that quite famous?
Well, in Queensland it is, but not
exactly.
Not north or south of the border.
It's a bit like the University of the Trent. It used to be called Nottingham Poly. That's where Porky went to get educated.
Anyway, in one of my journals that I read, it's called the Journal of Physiology. Okay, he has completely rubbished the idea that the best way to cool down your body temperature is to jump into an ice bath. Now, he says it's a complete load of rubbish and it's unnecessary and actually degenerates your skin. Now, I suppose you Aussies are jumping into ice baths all the time, are you?
Why?
Well, because it's very hot in Australia.
No, good question, Mike Graham. Why? No, we don't do that.
No.
Don't you? Well, why not?
This is akin to him asking what you did for Christmas, isn't it?
No.
You know, I mean, what do you think they do down there? Jump up and down and worship strange things in the sky?
No. But I mean, I would have thought the best way to cool down after a hard day's work is to come home and then go out in the back garden and jump into an ice bath to cool yourself down.
Why weren't you doing that in the summer when it was really hot here? Then you were moaning about coming on the train. Well, because you should have had a nice bath at home.
It's only hot for a few days here. Anyway, sorry, Sarah, you were so
Sarah.
Sandra.
There's a Freudian slip. That's his new girlfriend's name.
No.
It is. It's Sarah, isn't it?
Listen, Sandra, sorry.
Dear.
You were so rudely interrupted. Anyway, the point is, so you're telling me you don't know anybody in Australia who has an ice bath anyway, yeah?
Why would
Pretty
she?
much.
Yeah. Do you know anyone in Australia who has an ice bath?
Who?
You.
No.
Well, I don't live in Australia.
Does Sarah have an ice bath?
I've no idea.
I said a nice bath, not an ice bath.
Anyway, the point is apparently this guy is rubbishing this treatment, which is...
Why are you still going on about this ice bath bloke?
Well, because Jessica Ennis-Hill, who's one of our most famous athletes,
Indeed.
right, swears by it.
Yeah, well, so does Andy Murray, but they're athletes.
Yeah, exactly. Andy Murray swears by it.
Well, they're athletes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know why the Australians don't swear by it. They've got a few athletes, haven't they? Although you haven't been very athletic recently, have you? Australia aren't doing much in the Olympics or anything like that, are they?
Olympics
Sandra?
are finished.
I just have to say about the Queensland University guy, it sort of like begs a question about the level of science that's going on at our national institute.
Really? What, you think you're wasting a lot of money on pointless academic pursuits? Because we do in this country.
Okay. Yeah, well, considering that I don't know a single person in Australia who has an ice bath.
Really? Oh, that's astonishing.
Why?
That really is.
Why is it astonishing?
To make my next fortune, I might come over to Australia and start flogging ice baths to the Australians. Why not? Because it sounds to me like they could do with them.
Now, last time we spoke, Sandra, you were concerned there has been a couple of croc attacks, which I presume have died down a bit. What's the shark situation at this moment in time?
Well, in fact, since we did speak last, there has been another shark attack on the north coast of New South Wales, so my lovely state. And a young 17-year-old surfer was out and he got bitten on the leg by what is presumed to have been a great white shark, and he survived it. And I think the most adorable thing about this story, if there can be anything adorable, is that when he got pulled out onto the beach, he said, "Don't tell Mum."
Oh, God,
really?
I imagine, yeah. What a nightmare that must be.
Tell your mum you've lost the bottom half of your leg.
Survive a shark attack and then get told off by your mum.
She might guess when I come hopping into dinner tonight, you know? Oh, well, never mind.
See, I mean, it's very disrespectful tonight, Sandra. I must apologise for Mr. Parry's new kind of, a very aggressive demeanour. I'm not quite sure what's happened to him.
Excuse me.
But I think the clue is in the calling of you, Sarah. Anyway, brilliant to talk to you, Sandra, as ever.
Sandra, thank you very much.
We are still planning to come and do a show there, but
Definitely.
we may have some news for you on that front in the next few weeks.
Indeed.
Oh, well, if Mike goes the way he's going, he might have to bring a +1.
He might well have to do that. Yeah, absolutely right.
Indeed.
Thank you very much indeed. Sandra Lee there with all the news that's fit to print, which happens to be her Twitter handle as well.
That's right.
From Australia.
Indeed.
Coming up in the next hour, we're going to do Porkyvision, of course. It looks very much like it's going to be an extended version. I'm terribly sorry to say. I might just disappear for a couple of hours, 10 minutes or so, and have a couple of fags. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
This is another Rod Templeman one. This is Michael McDonald again and James Ingram.
Brilliant.
Great sounds.
Yeah, very great sounds indeed. Now, loads of messages coming in, and a lot of them relate to the fact that people think I was disrespectful to the hero dog.
Yes.
I wasn't. I only asked if the dog had been stuffed, and I called it a dumb animal because dogs are dumb animals.
Well, I mean, a lot of people would disagree with that, I have to say.
Nevertheless, I get a load of abuse.
It's an old-fashioned term, isn't it?
Yeah, OK, it is, but it's still true. Animals don't speak. At least the dog served a purpose. What has he done? What has Porky ever done of use? Mind you, you won't need to stuff Porky. He's pre-stuffed already.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice.
That is nice, isn't it? Hero dog who, for all his courage and hard work, got stuffed by the Aussies and insulted by a plank, says Jacob.
Absolutely.
Alex is trying to defend you, saying, I do believe Porky used dumb in the archaic sense, i.e. mute.
Exactly. That's
but
what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
think you... I mean, the thing is, people don't tend to use it that way anymore.
Well, I'm a master of the English language. I know when you can use that expression and when you can't.
Well, you can't use it in terms of a dumb animal, which is particularly if it's a hero dog.
And one here from Alan, he says, did Porky stuff his own poor little dog so he could have a friend that never left when they'd had enough of him?
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Exactly. Pascal says, so according to Porky, a basis for intelligence is talking. I know many who talk and are extremely dumb.
Yes.
Which is an interesting point of view.
Yes. And Abdul here says, old Sandra, our favourite Australian, just put Porky in his place.
Yes, I think that's
true. Well, I'm
true.
sorry, but that was an overreaction to my expression of the dog not being able to speak.
Well, I mean, she had a great relationship with this dog. She wrote a book about the dog.
Yeah.
So she spent a lot of time with the dog and with the dog's handler as well.
Sandra has, in fact, just tweeted. She says, shh, don't let him off the hook. Bill, so Bill must have sent in something against me.
Yeah.
But archaic might be appropriate, she says. Anyway, Sandra, it was great to have you on the show. Thank you very much indeed, as always.
Very bizarre that you called her Sarah, though, I thought.
Well, I think I was thinking at the time of great records, because that record guy has died. And I was
so you were thinking of Fleetwood Mac?
Fleetwood Mac, Sarah.
And that song, Sarah.
Yeah,
you expect us to swallow that,
well,
do
you know.
Lee says this, my dog is just laid here listening to this dumbass on the radio, and it's not MG. And there's a picture of his dog lying there looking very happy and contented.
That is a bit harsh.
Listening to the show. Patrick says, Porky said they waste money on pointless studies over there, so his journals are pointless.
No, they're not. No, they're not at all. They're researchful, I would say.
Researchful. Becky says, it should be compulsory at all Aussie building sites to have an ice bath by the Dully for spider bites to penis injuries.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I didn't like getting into that story because some people find it rather distasteful.
Well, no, you find it distasteful. Nobody else does. I mean, he might as well have been bitten anywhere else. It's still a story because he got bitten twice by the same spider in practically the same spot.
Yes.
And the fact that he survived is remarkable.
Another one here from Alan, who seems to have become a sort of, super correspondent. Probably got nothing better to do in life. He says, looking like another gerrymandered vote, hard to believe that people want 15 more minutes of Porky talking Biloxios.
It is hard to believe, isn't it?
Really?
It really is hard to believe. Now, we might have to have another listen to a little bit of old Bobcat Bob, because I found a piece that was written about him since he was unveiled. And he's famous, apparently, for introducing different kinds of music into the... into the dressing room.
Yeah, really?
And he believes in musical motivation, right? And one of the songs that he likes to use is "Downtown Train" by Tom Waits and David Bowie's "Heroes."
Heroes, I know. I don't know the other one. Downtown Train.
We might find you some Tom Waits. I mean, Tom Waits is brilliant.
Is he?
But I wouldn't say particularly motivational. But
who did he play with?
What?
Who did he play with?
He didn't play with Swansea, that's for sure.
No, who did Tom Waits play with?
Tom Waits is a kind of a... Well, he didn't really play with anybody.
I've heard of him.
He's... you never heard of Tom Waits?
No, I haven't heard
really?
of Tom. No.
Well, he's a very famous kind of... I mean, you would describe him as almost a barroom singer. That's the sort of sound he's got, a very smoky
like a
voice.
Pub singer, you mean?
Well, no, he's got a very smoky voice.
Yeah.
It's lovely music.
Really?
Very great music.
Yeah,
we'll play some Tom Waits in the next hour.
Your definition of lovely music is debatable, I
really?
have to say.
Are you sure? I don't think there's any doubt as to who's got the better musical taste on this show.
Not sure.
But let's have another listen to Bobcat Bob.
Yeah.
I love good passing football. I love the ability that when you have the ball, it moves quickly. You find the right time and the right way to get forward and make chances. And then I think it's also important that when you lose the ball, everybody's ready to react and try to win it back, so that it's a complete team effort. But football that starts with good passing for me is very important.
From an outsider, first of all, do you see this club as a club with plenty of potential?
I sure do. I think the success in recent years, it's a small club in a way, but when you think about the kind of support and the kind of passion that people have, then the opportunity to grow and do big things, I think that's what everybody here wants to see.
What do you think of that then? That's from Swans TV, of course, who got their first interview with their new manager.
Yes, thanks to Swans TV for allowing us access to that. Well, I mean, this man has actually compared himself to Guardiola.
Yeah.
He said that he believes he could get up there in those sort of elevated
Well, there's nothing wrong
circles.
with having self-confidence. I mean, you've said yourself that self-confidence and arrogance is a very thin line.
I totally agree. But then to say, I love good passing, when you lose a ball, the whole team's got to react and get the ball back. Passing. Do
you think he's sitting there with the back of his mind saying, whatever you do, don't say soccer?
Yeah, that's right. You got to pass the ball. Passing's what it's all about. Well, I mean, that's hardly sort of revolutionary stuff, is it?
Well, it's not really, but I suppose guys who do what he does and have done what he's done where he's done it, they talk like that, don't they? They don't talk about football the way you do. They talk about it as if it's a sort of science.
Maybe. I wonder if he'll shout from the touchline, you lost the ball, boys!
Well, one guy tweeted it earlier, and I forgot to read it out, so I can't get it at the moment. But
hey, pass the ball, boys!
It was something about will he be setting up his team with two wide receivers?
Two wide receivers, that's right.
Which is probably a little bit unkind.
Yeah, it is a bit, really, yeah.
Right.
But when you look at the teams that he's managed around the world, some of them are so average that, you wonder where the qualification for it comes from, apart from his nationality.
Yeah, but hang on, Swansea.
Because the owners of Swansea are American.
Yeah, but if he's managed average teams, then actually, then Swansea should be looking forward to his taking over, because they're below average currently. I mean, they are in the Premier League as a below average team. And their performance is below average.
Yeah, but they're still a Premier League team.
No, I know, but if he can make them into an average Premier League team, that will be an improvement. That's my point.
Yeah, but his only qualifications is that he's managed a second division French team.
That's not true.
Into fifth place.
No, I've told you many times. In the 2010 World Cup, he managed the United States of America into a further position in that tournament than England.
Yeah, I know that. But
so how is that a bad thing?
Because I've tried to explain to you that managing an international team like America is so incredibly different to managing a Premier League team like Swansea. There's absolutely no...
I don't think it's that different.
They're two completely different skills in the same sport.
I don't think it's that different.
They're two completely different skills, honestly.
Maybe he should be given the England manager's job then, because he'd do a better job there. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's nonsense.
Why is that nonsense?
Because he's not English. He's American.
Doesn't matter.
That's why he was able to do it for the American national team.
I see.
That and that reason only.
Oh, okay. So you don't believe that foreign coaches work then?
No, they don't work. No.
They do.
They don't.
Of course they do.
Well, so, which foreign coaches work for England?
They've worked in lots of different places. Well, no coach has worked for England.
No, exactly.
I mean, nobody can make England play football and be successful.
That's right.
But I don't think it's a question of whether they're foreign or not.
No, I'm sorry,
it's a question of whether the England players are any good at actually pulling their bootstraps up.
Foreign coaches don't work for England, and that's the only country I care about, having a foreign coach. I don't care what other countries do.
Right.
I really don't care.
Right.
I couldn't care less.
What I'm saying is that your argument is very spurious, because it's based on no facts whatsoever.
It is. It's based on the facts that no foreign coach has made England great.
I mean, the best performing manager for England, actually, over time, is Sven-Göran Eriksson, isn't it?
Moderately.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Modestly.
No. Yes or no? You'd have to say yes, wouldn't you?
No, because he's not better than Bobby Robson.
His record is better than Bobby Robson.
No, it's not. Bobby Robson got to the semi-final of the World Cup, and Alf Ramsey won the World Cup. They're both English.
Well, I'm talking about in recent times. Bobby Robson was a long time ago.
It's a fatuous debate, to be honest.
Okay.
Until we get an English manager who can take us to competitions where we are in the top 3 or 4 favourites to win the competition and regularly get to the semi-finals and even get to the finals and possibly win it, then you can't judge anything else as anywhere near success.
I think Bobcat Bob might be the answer, to be honest.
Bobcat Bob with Skip Bornuda.
This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Tight, slack-clad girls on a graveyard shift, beat the seamen stroll, catch the midnight drift. Cigar chewing Charlie in that newspaper nest.
That's Tom Waits.
That sounds awful.
You think that sounds awful?
I think that's dreadful.
Tom Waits is brilliant.
I think that's dreadful. I think that's a dirge.
Do you know what it reminds me of whenever I hear Tom Waits? It reminds me of walking into there's a particular bar called 1 5th, which is the bottom of 5th Avenue.
Right.
And it's actually designed like the inside of a ship.
Right.
Just about sort of 2 blocks away from Washington Square.
Yes.
And they had a piano player and they had that kind of sound, and it just gives me that sort of very warm feeling about New York City in the early hours of the morning.
Really?
Yeah.
I have to say, that didn't even sound like a song. It sounded like a load of rubbish. It sounded like some bloke who was half cut.
Well, I accept that it's probably not...
That's a piano in a speakeasy.
Not as good as some of that 70s garbage
by
that
the
you
way,
keep banging on about. It's in the time, by the way.
I'll ask you a question later about Billy's Gay 90s.
Bill's Gay 90s? Yeah. Okay.
Still there?
I think they've revamped it, but you can ask me in a minute. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. A lot of people are picking up on the old Bobcat Bob scenario.
Yeah.
Nick has sent this in on at the Two Mics. Sheriff J.W. Pepper, I think this is an actual quote from the film. Did you ever think of getting a driver's license, boy? After the car chase.
Yeah, that's right. But the one I most liked from that was when Felix Leiter, who is the CIA guy, went up to the sheriff and said, "Hey, Sheriff, you got to back off here, man. You got to back off." "Why you got to back off?" "Well, he's from England and he's one of them secret agents." And the sheriff says, "On whose side?" Because he'd been so turned over by Roger Moore.
Yeah. Here's one from Michael, who says, "I don't know why Mr. Parry gets so much stick. It's nice to hear a well-spoken gentleman on the old voice box."
Thank you.
Keep it up, lads.
Yeah, that's it.
Why is he describing you as a well-spoken gentleman?
Because I'm a well-spoken gentleman.
Peter says this, just tuning into the show, why is Porky so grumpy? I haven't heard him grouch like this in months.
No, I'm not at all.
I don't think he's particularly grumpy.
No, I'm not at all. I'm just pointing out the facts, you know.
Caricature is asking, Mike, what's your favourite bar in New York? Which leads on to the question you were asking before.
Billy's Gay 90s.
Now, it was shut down, and I believe it's been reopened.
Right.
But I don't know whether it's been reopened in exactly the same form, if you know what I mean.
Just to point out to everybody, it's been called Billy's Gay 90s since the 1930s. Nothing to do with the word gay meaning, you know, what it means these days. It was like... Gay in those days was come and have a good time, wasn't it? You know, that's what it was. That's what
exactly
it was called.
Right.
But it's the only bar I've ever been to in New York which had a log fire indoors.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Had a log fire.
Well, I went One If by Land, Two If by Sea had a log fire, which was down
one?
in the West Village. A place called One If by Land, Two
Oh,
If by
okay.
Sea.
Well, I'm talking about Midtown Manhattan then,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Where you got big buildings, you know, which go on fire on a regular basis.
What?
You know, the buildings.
Buildings that go on fire on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Where?
Well, in Manhattan you had fires all the time, didn't you? That's why you got so many fire stations.
No.
Yeah, you did.
You didn't go on fire. Buildings didn't go on fire particularly a lot in Manhattan.
They did, because you used to get short circuits in the wiring systems of these tall skyscrapers.
I don't remember any massive fires when I was there.
Yeah, well, you know, you don't remember a lot about when you were there.
Well, I do. One of the things I do remember is it was Bill's Gay 90s, not Billy's Gay 90s.
Bill's, was it? Yeah. Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about acts of kindness, okay?
Oh, okay.
Now, do you believe acts of kindness are important to your day-to-day living?
Well, you mean by me or by other people?
Well, by you, that is you dispensing acts of kindness and receiving acts of kindness from other people. Do you think it's an important part of our civilised life?
I think it's a good thing. I mean, why would I not think it was a good thing?
Right.
And if you can carry out an act of kindness on a daily basis, I'd say that's good. But I think you shouldn't go out with the idea that you're going to do it.
I set out to make sure I do. Complete an act of kindness every day. No, I do.
What acts of kindness did you complete today, then?
Today, my act of kindness today was, yes, I recovered for my mother, who's 83, a lost piece of merchandise that she'd ordered over the phone from a shopping thing.
An online shopping thing?
Online shopping, that's right, yes.
How did you manage that, then?
Well, I rang up the people and said, "Where is it? And get it over here fast, otherwise you're going to be in trouble."
That doesn't sound like an act of kindness.
Well, it was an act of kindness.
Like a threat.
No, it made my mum feel better, you see.
Okay.
Yeah, I rang
What
her
was
back.
it you got?
Well, actually, funny enough, it wasn't for her. It was for my two sisters. She'd bought them an autumn present.
Okay, an autumn present?
Yes.
What? Like what?
Well, I can't tell you.
Why not?
Well, because my mum hasn't told them what it is.
Oh, I see.
And they're arriving in packages.
Did she get you an autumn present?
No, I didn't get one. Sorry, why do you find it so funny?
Because she's giving the presents to her favourite kids, isn't she?
Well, I don't know.
It's a bit like going back to your childhood.
Well, I don't know.
You know, when you couldn't get on the old big wheel.
Well, I
wouldn't. The extra chair at the table for
I wouldn't worry about that. But anyway.
I'm not worried about it.
Anyway, do acts of kindness actually make us feel any better? Now, scientists from the universities of Oxford and Bournemouth have to say there's a huge gulf in class between
there is, rather.
the universities of Oxford and Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Says yes. they say it can contribute to about... it can make your day better by 7% if you complete an act of kindness, OK?
Right.
And they say there are four reasons why human beings do kind things, OK?
Well, I mean, if you do actually do a kind act, what you've done there is not, I don't think, would be generally described as an act of kindness. It's helping out your mother, which is not the same thing.
Well, lots of people don't.
I mean, do you remember that film Pay It Forward, which came out about 10 years ago?
No.
And that was all about the whole idea that if somebody does a good deed for one person, then that person does a good deed for somebody else.
Right.
And then so on and so on.
Yes.
The world becomes a much better place.
But I like doing acts of kindness for people.
Well, no, you don't. You remember more about the time that the guy had a puncture and you wouldn't help him.
Oh, well, that was because I had to go off and do something else.
No, you didn't.
But
You
I mean,
didn't
for
want to help
instance, if I get off a train at a particular station, this happened once at East Croydon Station, which has long walkways up to the concierge area from the
concierge,
the concourse area from the platforms. There was a poor woman there struggling with 2 cases, literally. And I said, let me help you, despite the fact that only 1/3 of my heart works. I took on the responsibility.
Was she a youngish woman?
No, she wasn't. No, this is the point. She was an oldish woman and hauled her cases up. But, I do that because I like to help people.
Really?
I hate to see people in distress.
Do you?
If I see somebody in distress, I immediately believe, as a human being, I have to stop and inquire, can I help?
Right. Does it make you feel better?
Well, it doesn't necessarily make me feel better, but I want them to feel better.
Yeah.
Now, there's 4 reasons why human beings do it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to categorise you in one of these.
Okay.
First of all, we've evolved to look after our relatives because it gives us a better chance of passing on our genes.
Well, I mean, in some cases you'd say you look after your relatives because you kind of have to.
Yeah, well, that's because of the gene thing. That's come down through the generation. So you probably said that's what I was doing today, OK?
Yes.
Helping fellow tribe members, this is going back to the Stone Age and all that.
Porky tribe.
The
Porky tribe.
The Porky tribe, yeah. Helping fellow tribe members should cement your social ties, i.e. makes you acceptable within that group of people, OK?
Yeah.
Now, third one... if you do something nice for a friend, they may return the favour.
Yes, there are people, I would say, who do acts of kindness in order to get a favour returned.
I don't.
I don't either.
Can I tell you it's the opposite?
Yeah.
My experience in life, and this is not a bitter statement, it's one out of experience, is that mostly when I've done kind things for friends, it has never been returned.
Right.
And worse, not only has it never been returned, it's actually been used against me as a bitter riposte.
Really?
Because I have been able to enable that act of kindness, or I've done it and I'm then accused of showing off.
Yes.
You see what I mean?
Well, I've often accused you of showing off, haven't I? Because, I mean, you and I, when we first used to do a show together, I said one of the reasons you like to give money to people who are begging in the street is because it makes you feel big.
No.
It makes you feel as if
it's because I want to help them.
No, I don't believe
But that takes us on to the 4th specific reason why we do kind things. It says, being kind to strangers is a good opportunity to show off your wealth and reinforce your status in the eyes of potential mates.
Yes, I think that's one reason that you would do it.
And you put me in that category.
I do put you in that category.
Well, actually, I think it's disgraceful.
Well, because I used to find it embarrassing when we go to bars and you would sort of shove money at people who were just selling you a drink, which in this country you don't do. And you would do it in order to show how much money you had.
No, I didn't. I've never done that. I've never done that.
Yeah, you did. You used to give, like, ridiculous tips to bar people.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
All right.
I was with you.
Well, in this country or abroad?
Yes, in this country. In this country.
Well, there's nothing wrong with tipping a barman.
Well, there is if you don't expect to do it or expect it to be done. And most of the time they would be embarrassed and say, no, it's all right, thank you very much, I don't want a £20 tip.
Nobody's ever turned down a £20 tip from me. No, they have not.
They have.
Because
they happened in our company.
Where?
It's happened in our company.
Where?
Well, it's happened around here, where you've tried to give... It's not rubbish. I was there. I witnessed it.
No, that's never happened.
Yes, it has.
Anyway...
I'm telling you to Donald Trump.
Eh?
You're telling you to Donald Trump.
Anyway,
I never said the Chinese were responsible for spreading lies about global warming.
That's right.
Oh, yes, you did. Here's a tweet from 3 years ago.
Yeah. Anyway, look, this report says the consensus is that happiness in general is fairly transient, right? Even if you win the lottery, you will eventually revert to your normal state, and happiness is only a momentary pleasure. The warm and happy feeling that you get from doing something nice would last for a relatively short period of time, but perhaps the friendship or the relationship that evolves from it could make it last a lot longer. OK?
But you don't believe that happiness is a general state, do you? You think that happiness is very transient and that, generally speaking, people are miserable.
I think happiness, to be perfectly honest, is a false state for a human being to be in.
Which it isn't at all.
I think it's a false... I think anybody who thinks they're happy is fooling themselves.
Well, I'm happy.
Yeah, well, you don't really know whether you're happy or not.
I do, actually. I do. I know that I'm happy because I am happy.
Yeah, you should consider 3 things. Does it matter who the target of your kindness is, or do you just like being randomly kind? What form should it take, or should it be in any form at all? And should it really be distributed at random, or should you specify where your kind acts go to?
Yeah. I think the whole point of an act of kindness is that it tends to be it's a genuine one. It's a spontaneous act. Yeah. Like you say, if you see somebody struggling with bags, you help them out. Yeah. And anything which is in any way kind of pre-planned or preordained or that you sort of try to do because you think you should is not really an act of kindness because by its definition, you've then kind of
I don't agree.
Sort of arranged that.
See, I don't agree.
You've arranged
recently, somebody we know arranged a train ticket for me, okay? And it was on a Virgin train to and from somewhere like Manchester or Newcastle or somewhere, okay? When I was on the train and I'm buying a load of nosh and wine and all that, I see that they have little boxes of trains full of jelly beans. So I bought that particular person a little box of train jelly beans.
Did you?
And that's an act of kindness.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, no, that's paying somebody back for something they did for you.
Yeah, but most people wouldn't have done that,
That's not an act of kindness.
Most people wouldn't have done that.
That's so that you can ensure that the person who booked your train ticket will do it again.
No, that's a thank you.
If you gave me a train load of jelly beans, I'd throw them at you.
Yeah, well, you probably would, but you see, you have no sort of human decency in you, really, in that sort of respect.
Is that right?
Yeah, you're just...
Well, let's not pad up the human decency charts, because I don't think you'll win that one. Yeah. This is Talk Sport.
As your TV reviewer, I can reveal there are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's the problem?
Now, slightly earlier than advertised, it's time for Porkyvision because, of course, due to public demand, Porkyvision is now going to be 2 sections. Only for tonight, though, because Porky's got so much to tell us. So,
absolutely.
I suppose you better get on with it.
Right, now I'm going to start with The Fall, OK?
Yes.
Now, The Fall has had 2 previous series, and you've been trying to catch up on them.
I have, yes. I've managed to get, I think, to episode 3 of series 2.
Right, OK.
And there's only like 5 of them. So
is it all based in Northern Ireland?
It is all based in Northern Ireland.
OK, have you made any sense of it yet?
I have, actually. I think it's very good.
Right, OK. So I'm watching the 3rd series, right, with no previous experience of watching the other 2, which is fine, because that's where most people are going to be if they want to pick up on the 3rd.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you what, it's the most bloodthirsty series I've ever seen. It opens with a few flashbacks from the previous 2 series, right? And there's bits of violence in that.
Yeah.
But actually, the scene that opens here is you've got a bloke who has been shot dead and he's lying on the floor. You've got a woman who's been kidnapped and trussed up in the back of her car, in the boots of a car.
There's a lot of tying up going on, actually.
Yeah, in the boots of a car for 4 days.
Yeah.
And then the guy who's responsible for the killing and the kidnapping is getting away when a policeman shoots him, and he gets 2 bullets in him. One of them is buried in his torso, okay? And he's then carted off to hospital.
So he's not dead?
No, he's not dead, but I mean, he's very seriously wounded.
He's not well, yeah.
Now, they then go through the whole procedure of saving this guy's life in the most graphic, pictures I've ever seen on television.
But you say this, right? Yeah. I mean, as I said to you before, there's an awful lot of shooting and killing and sort of tying people up and stuff like that. So it's quite a brutal show. But to say that the most horrible bloodthirsty thing is actually an operation...
Oh, it's terrible.
Surely there must be more bloodthirsty things than that.
No, if anybody was eating their dinner watching that, they'd throw up. I mean, it's so revolting. They must have used actual footage from, some training video to show doctors how to operate on... Because they removed the spleen, and you saw the surgeon take the spleen out and hand it to a colleague.
But I mean, I've seen other shows, and I'm like you. I don't particularly want to see all that. No. But they're always terribly sort of graphic about it.
Oh, this is terribly graphic. Now, there's one guy actually who is I think he's in charge of the trauma room. Where they take these people who are shot up. Who is brilliant, and he looks like Peter G, who is our colleague here at Talk Sport, in charge of creative.
Indeed.
He looks and talks a little bit like, because the Northern Irish accent's not that far away from the Scottish accent.
Well, maybe, you might say that.
And talks like, but this guy's terribly efficient. He's ordering people around what they've got to do. He's right on top of the job. That's all very impressive. But the gore is terrible. For instance, I don't know why, but when they take the body out of the trauma room and take it to the theatre to start operating to get the bullets out of him, They show you all the detritus left in the
what?
The detritus.
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 Yeah.
The detritus left in the
thought
room.
That was maybe one of his organs.
No, the detritus left in the room. And, I mean, there's blood all over the place and discarded clothes which are all bloody and boots that have been taken off his body which have been blown up and all that kind of stuff. And then you see a crowd of cleaners come in, start mopping the floor of the blood and all. It's so graphically violent and graphic.
But some of the killing and stuff must have been worse than that, though, surely.
Well, I've only seen a couple of killings so far, you know, blowing people away with bullets and that kind of stuff. Now, the other thing that is terribly wrong about this fall, is that the leading character is Gillian Anderson.
Yes.
Who plays a detective chief superintendent who's been sent over from London, the Metropolitan Police, to help out the police service of Northern Ireland, who have a serial killer on the loose in Belfast.
What you see in the first series, basically, is when she arrives, is that they've investigated the fact that there's been 3 murders, but they haven't linked them at all.
Right.
So she's the first person that comes along and says, I think you got a serial killer.
That's right. Now,
I think she's great in it.
Well, she maybe, but she is terribly unbelievable. I mean,
I don't think so.
You have never seen... Look, you and I have worked in this business many years, and in 30 years, I've never seen a policewoman who looks anything like Gillian Anderson. She's beautifully blonde and glamorous.
Yeah, but there might be sort of detectives that we've never seen.
Hang on. She speaks with a voice which is as sexy and whispery as Marilyn Monroe's, you know, in Some Like It Hot, you know what I mean? Her clothes are...
She's not unused to a bit of horizontal refreshment in one of the earlier series either.
Oh, Gillian Anderson?
Yeah.
Really? What, with a colleague?
Well, with a police officer.
With a police officer?
Yeah, who she meets literally and decides that she wants to take him to bed.
Yeah.
That moment. And just says to him, slips him a piece of paper and says room 228 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, and he turns up and,
It's getting worse. Now, the clothes she wears are designer clothes. I mean, she looks like she's going out to a disco because her skirt actually has a zip from the waist right the way down the front of her skirt. Now, that is a sort of come-on type skirt, if you see what I mean.
Come-on skirt.
Yeah, which you wear on a night out if you're going to Annabelle's and you fancy picking up a man.
She was wearing a leather skirt in one of the episodes I was watching.
It is a leather skirt. It's a leather skirt with a zip right the way down the front.
Right.
She wears low-cut tops. Yeah. She wears designer jackets and very high heels. Yeah. She looks less like a policewoman than any policewoman I've ever seen. And it does not fit into the show. It's absolute garbage.
I don't agree actually.
No,
but, I mean, it's not my TV review.
No. Well, I just can't see how she can fit into the police world at all. It just.
Oh, you suggested they're all frumpy.
Well, I'm suggesting that they do not dress to those sort of glamorous standards when they're involved in their day-to-day police work. I'm sure there's some very glamorous policewomen in this country. I've no doubt about that because, you know, senior policewomen are confident and confident women can be glamorous and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But I'm sorry, it just does not fit with me at all. And the sheer level of violence. Oh, and there's one very interesting bit where the guy who's in charge of the trauma room, the Peter G. lookalike, says, we've got another one coming in. It's a wounded policeman. And he says, just like the 70s. Well, actually, I worked in Belfast for 18 months in the late 70s, early 80s, between 79 and 81, and it was just like the 70s, believe me.
Well, because there was always people turning up in the A&E.
Absolutely. And, you know, ambulances, you know, with sirens all the time. But the most interesting thing is, they call this hospital, I think, in this series, the Belfast General Hospital, whereas it's obviously based on the Royal Victoria Hospital, Belfast.
Well, I suppose they can't. You don't have to use real names, do they?
No. And believe me, the surgeons there became the best in the world at what they did. Because they treated so many people for gunshot wounds, for explosive wounds, for being blown up, for amputations and all that. Right. And that is all reflected in this trauma room in the Belfast
Well, doesn't that make it a great
hospital.
show then?
Yeah, but it's too graphic. I mean, they spent 80% of the show I watched, that's episode 1 of the series 3, was the most graphic, gruesome doctors plunging their hands into people's torsos and bringing organs out and holding them up. And it was dreadful. I don't know why they did all that. Yeah. Far too much of that. Far too much and far too little of the plot. Okay. Honestly, this is terrible.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the first one. I think the second one happened last week as well. So I think I think tonight will be the third one.
No, it won't.
Is it the second one?
Second one tonight.
Are you sure?
Definitely sure. Definitely sure.
Okay, I'm not so certain. But anyway, this weekend, I'm going to watch the remaining 2 episodes of the second series. And then I'm going to get stuck into the third one. I think it's very good.
Okay, more Porkyvision to come.
Yeah, apparently there's more Porkyvision to come because you bloody well wanted it.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport. Crocodile Shoes is a theme song to Crocodile Shoes, not Spender.
Yeah, but he played Spender in Crocodile Shoes, didn't he? Well, I think so.
I mean, you're the expert.
No,
you're
hang
the
on.
guy.
Spender was a different series, yeah.
And here we are for the second section
exactly.
of Chuckle Vision, Porky Vision.
Yeah,
but here's what Becky has to say. She says, not two sections of Porky berating women for what they wear and how they look. What's that got to do with the plot?
No.
She's not very happy with you.
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking about a character in a show who I think is misappropriately cast. Okay?
And here's one from Matt who says, hands up, I voted for more Porky Vision because I felt sorry for Porky and figured he wouldn't get many votes. That backfired. That's like the Jeremy Corbyn situation, isn't it? That?
Or even the Brexit situation.
Or even the Brexit. Yeah. And Rodney says, just a little nugget of info, the hospital in the fall is actually filmed in my old high school, Orangefield High School.
What, in Belfast?
I presume in Belfast.
Oh, that's interesting. Right, okay.
Anyway, we've done enough on the fall, so what have you got for
right.
two?
Now, the other one is a cop thing as well. There's so many cop shows around. It's called DCI Banks, okay?
Oh, yeah. Right.
And it's garbage, because the guy who plays DCI Banks is an actor called Stephen Tompkinson.
Oh, yeah.
Now, he's done
Stephen Tompkinson's great. I know Stephen Tompkinson.
Now, he's done loads of comedy stuff in the past, right, which I think he's very, very good at. But here, he has to be a serious policeman.
Right.
I think he's like a chief inspector.
He's a good actor, though.
No, he's terrible in this.
I used to go to rugby matches with him.
Really? Why?
No, because he was a big rugby fan.
Yeah, but I mean, how did you know him?
I knew him because he turned up in Cardiff one time.
Oh, I see.
Because he was a friend of Don Mackay's wife.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And he was in at the time. He was
She was in Coronation Street.
He was in at the time. He was in something quite popular, some kind of sort of ensemble cast thing.
It could have been DCI Banks.
I don't know. It was before that.
No, okay.
And he came along to a couple of rugby games. We used to get very good tickets to rugby games.
Yeah, sure.
And a bit of hospitality.
Yeah.
And he was a really nice guy, actually.
Well, anyway, he's hopeless in this, and I'll tell you why. Because he is.
He's a great actor.
What happens is that he is secretly in love with a member of his staff who's female,
right?
And she gets murdered in a back alley in where is it? Is it York? This is situated, or
York,
is it Manchester?
What, the place where they play a lot of cricket?
Yeah, I think it's York actually. I'm not sure, but it's a northern town anyway, a good gritty northern town, and she gets stabbed. Now he's got it in his head. That the reason she got stabbed was because she had acquired information about a well-known local villain who presented himself as a successful businessman.
Yes.
But, the belief was that below the surface of the veneer of successful businessman, he was a gangster.
I see.
Running all sorts of drug cartels and all that kind of stuff, right? Now, so he thought his colleague, who he was in love with secretly, a woman, had been murdered by a thug and hired by the businessman.
Right.
So he then takes it on himself to become judge, jury, and executioner. So he then
So as a working policeman, he goes around killing people.
No. He didn't kill anybody. I mean, that's an expression to say.
So you call him an executioner?
Yeah, a one-man sort of law machine. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So he then goes around doing things like parking outside the businessman's house. Wait till he comes out with his wife in the seat, stopping the car, demanding that he be let in the house, search the house, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
He then tells him, I know you killed my colleague, I forgot what her name is, and I'm going to get you. And the businessman's just smiling and laughing at him and saying, where's your evidence, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
He's only got two expressions in the whole of the episode I saw, and that is anger and extreme anger, shouting at people, blowing his top, shouting back at people, belittling his inferiors and having a go at his senior officers for not doing enough. I know who killed her. It was the businessman. And there's no balance in it whatsoever.
Well, it's been announced, it's been renewed for a fourth series, right, which is what this is.
Yeah.
So that's not bad, is it?
Well,
people must like it.
Well, maybe, but I think his presentation is very one-dimensional. Okay, now talking about.
Don't you like anybody in the show?
No, I don't. No. Well, yeah, I do.
Well,
actually.
quite a lot. Well, how about Andrea Lowe, Detective Sergeant, Caroline Katz?
Yeah, well, she's the one who got killed.
Do they wear pencil skirts?
No, I've no idea because I didn't take any note of the women's fashion.
Really?
But the most impressive guy is the gangster man. He's and he was. Tell you what he was in. He was in.
Is that Jack Dern?
Is that Jack Dern?
No,
it could be.
No, he's a detective.
He was in Broadchurch. He was in Broadchurch. He was very, very good. Yeah, he was the father, I think, of the boy. He was the father of not the boy who got killed.
Right.
He was the father of who befriended the. He might have been the father of He was the father of the kid who was his son's mate who got killed or something like that.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he was very good. Now listen, we can't let Porkyvision go without the fact that I've come across.
Was there more of it now?
No. Forget all that. I've come across the Coronation Street episode where Kylie gets killed.
Kylie who?
Kylie in Coronation Street.
Okay.
She gets murdered.
Well, I've never seen it.
Yeah, she gets stabbed by a bloke with a broken bottle.
Well, you shouldn't be giving that away, should you?
Yeah, because it's some time ago. I'm about 2 weeks behind.
All right.
And it was
good
rubbish.
news for Ferg, who's just tweeted, has Porky reviewed Corrie yet? I've just tuned in.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Kylie gets murdered on the street. But I tell you what, it was a terrible episode because it looked like it was being filmed on the set of a soap opera.
Uh-huh.
Because there was nobody else around.
Well, it is a soap opera.
No, it looked like the set of a soap opera. It didn't look like a real street. Seriously.
What, Coronation Street?
Yeah, it did, honest to God.
Yeah, but it is a soap opera. It's not a real street,
No,
is it?
you don't get
remember
me.
when we went to Salford, right?
Yeah.
And we saw where they made it.
Yes, that's right,
It was right across the sort of canal.
It was, but what I'm saying is, it looked to me like they were trying to portray a soap opera set within Coronation Street. You see what I mean?
Yes.
And because it happened at 1557. We know that because the ambulance guy eventually arrived, said, OK, time of death. No, it was 1757.
1757.
So that's 3 minutes to 6.
It is.
Guess what? Not a single person on the street.
Really?
And it's 3 minutes to 6 when people are coming home, going into the Rovers'
But
return
Coronation
for a
Street
drink.
isn't necessarily a place of great busyness at rush hour, is it?
Well,
because it's a residential street.
I don't care. People are still coming home. There's people in the street. People are going into the Rovers' return pub. People are coming out of the cafe.
Well, you said it's lost its credibility.
To me, it was complete falsehood. And guess what? So she comes staggering in.
It's a complete falsehood.
Yeah,
Do you know who says that?
Who?
Michael Corleone, when he's being investigated by the
Senate.
The Senate.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Senate committee. Yeah.
It is a complete falsehood.
It's a complete falsehood. Yeah. So anyway, she gets stabbed, and then her husband, David Platt.
David
is cradling her head.
David Platt.
Yeah, David Platt. Yeah.
You know, he used to be a footballer.
No, it's his name in the show, David Platt, yeah. So, cradling her head...
Yeah, well, you're going to knock this on the head now. It's getting boring.
No.
It's rubbish.
And guess what? For a good 7 or 8 minutes, she's lying on the street, dying, bleeding to death.
Yeah.
And he's crying over her.
Right.
But,
why is he saving her?
Well, this is the point. There's no sign of an ambulance, no sign of a policeman... No sign of nothing.
Right.
And eventually, after about 10 minutes...
Maybe the budgets are tight.
Maybe they are. After about 10 minutes, a single ambulance arrives and a bloke jumps out and says, I'm a paramedic, you know, but she's already dead. And then, about 5 minutes after that, a solitary police car arrives. Now,
what do you expect?
Well, in this country now...
10 police cars
in this country now,
being stabbed.
In this country now, right, if you and I went downstairs or so outside the front door and you flicked your cigarette onto the pavement and somebody reported you for a hate crime, right, that's a hate crime, you'd have 6 police cars.
Yeah, that is true.
You'd have 6 police cars... roaring down the street within 90 seconds.
Maybe not in Manchester or something.
Well, I've no idea, you know. But what I'm saying is, the whole thing was a complete farrago of nonsense, utter nonsense.
A farrago of nonsense.
Yeah, farrago of nonsense.
Super.
It was. Yeah.
That's lovely. I like that.
And I'm
farrago of nonsense.
Yeah, I'm telling you, for me,
it's a bit like your TV review. This is part 2 of Porkyvision, a farrago of nonsense.
No. For me,
DCI Banks. You don't know where they shoot it.
DCI, yeah, I do.
Where?
Well, I told you it's a northern town.
Well, yeah, but you know where though?
I think it's York.
No.
And I have to say that I think Corro's lost a bit of its credibility because that to me was the whole thing was completely unreal. At the same time as all this is going on,
well, that's enough now.
The girl from the
That's
kebab
be
shop
enough.
has got her head bashed in by collapsing on the cobbles. It didn't make any sense to me at all.
Well,
I agree. That's enough of that. That's
none
enough.
of that made any sense at all.
It all makes a lot of sense. I'd like to hear from the audience.
Can we have some music to close off Porkyvision so that at least we feel as if somehow we don't have to listen to any all that garbage?
You mean we've got closure?
Yeah, let's have closure.
Let's have closure.
Let's see if we can find
some.
Because I think a lot of people are saying, you know, I'm not sure we're going to vote for an extra extended version of Porkyvision ever again.
I think they will. I think they'll find they want more of this next week. Believe me.
Really.
Anyway, listen. What we should be talking about is the quiz.
The quiz?
We haven't decided.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, what are we going to do it on?
Well, you know, I've had a few ideas about this, that, and the rest.
Well, we did say, we had an idea for it last night, didn't we?
Well, it's Malta, wasn't it?
Malta.
Yeah, because England are playing Malta, but we thought it was a bit wide-ranging.
Well, it's a bit narrow, actually.
Bit narrow.
And unless you know much about Malta, we could do Malta, but I mean, you'd have to do a lot of research.
Yeah, I suppose so. Well, you'd have to do a lot of research.
No, I wouldn't, no. All I do is read out the questions.
Yeah, no, but you'd have to do a lot of research because you clearly advise the
I do not advise anybody.
masters.
No, all I advise them of is the chosen subject. The questions are then drawn from their own research.
Yes, you say that, yeah.
Well, it's true.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Well, I mean, you said you were an expert on Canada, and you got 1.5 out of 10 last week.
Yeah, but that's because the questions were so obtuse.
What else? You calling me obtuse?
Yeah, you're calling me obtuse. Well, the other things, of course, we could have a look at. You know, if we want things.
What else is going on this week?
Which are in the public eye. Well, all sorts of things. I mean, you know, look, judging by the way that a lot of our national newspapers have gone into the in-depth look at Gareth Southgate. Now, where he was.
Well, how about
brought
Gareth
up and all that.
Southgate?
No, I don't think so.
You don't want to do Gareth Southgate?
No, I don't think so at all. No, not Gareth Southgate. What we could do, if you like.
You want to do something on investigative journalism?
Investigative journalism is not a bad idea, but look, I think we're going to have to have a symposium on this and come up with a subject.
They have to know before the end of this show.
Yes,
because otherwise they won't be able to be in. It'll be outside of the communication scenario.
Yeah, well, we can get that sorted before the end of the show. Don't worry.
Well, you've only got about 20 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I will. Before the end of the show, I will give you a subject. Okay.
You will give me a subject.
I will give you a subject.
So you're going to choose the subject.
Well,
because you chose it last week as well.
Well, you haven't chosen one yet, so it looks like it's going to be down to me again.
Well, no, I mean, I don't mind if you choose a subject, but generally speaking, the quiz is meant to be something that we spring upon you, as opposed to you deciding what you want to be asked questions about.
By the way,
maybe you'd like to write the question.
The Times wrote a leader today about what a mealy-mouthed individual John Cleese has become.
Ah, yes.
You right?
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
You want to do it on John Cleese?
No, not at all. But I mean, he's been called charmless now.
Well, he's really blotted his copybook. I mean, I think he's damaged his legacy. All of those things. You know, he used to be a very funny guy, and he's not funny anymore.
Yeah, well, no,
we talked about this the other night, and he's become obsessed with attacking journalists.
Yes,
because he feels that somehow they write things about him which he doesn't like.
Yes,
and I think it's pathetic, really.
I do as well.
A shadow of his former self.
By the way, I told you I'm looking at right now. Right, you know, we started the investigation into cycle lanes. And yesterday, the Daily Mail highlighted how bad it is in London.
People have been tweeting in about saying, "Can you stop getting on about cyclists all the time?"
Not only that, they have now gone right across the country and taken pictures of towns where traffic is at a standstill while cycle lanes are empty.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. It's justified everything I've ever said. They've done it in Cornwall, in Manchester, in Surrey. In Surrey, yeah.
Where in Surrey?
Surbiton, Surrey, not far from me. Yes, I go there, yeah.
What's good about Surbiton?
Surbiton is the location of The Good Life. Remember The Good Life?
I do remember The Good Life.
Starring...
Felicity Kendall was a member of my golf club.
Was she really?
Yeah.
The Royal Mint Surrey?
She was.
Yeah, so it was Felicity Kendall.
No, I think she was a member when she won Rear of the Year.
The wet-faced guy who was her husband, you know...
Richard Bryars.
Richard Bryars, thank you. And then...
Penelope Keith,
and the other guy who became Prime Minister person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Paul somebody, right?
Was it? Yeah, sure, yeah. But that's what it's famous for.
Yeah, okay.
And I have to say... I'm glad I've been vindicated in pointing out. I alerted the world to this.
I think we should ban it. I think we should no longer talk about it.
I alerted the world to this, and so I'm
absolutely
delighted that it's now happened. Really delighted.
Absolute
really
rubbish. Anyway, we will talk more about them, I'm sure, in the future, but not any longer in this show. Coming up next, we're going to try and work out what the quiz should be on. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk.
Left a legacy of fantastic music.
Absolutely tremendous.
Brilliant. And you know, when we all pass away, we all pass over, whatever it's called, we should all have a legacy to leave behind.
Well, luckily for you and I, because we've been on the radio, there'll be lots of sort of things that people could listen to.
Well, that's right, yeah.
You know, there'll be endless reels of YouTube
Just
stuff.
Think in 30 years' time, people might still be listening to, you know, my theories on...
I was thinking more of people listening to the two of us, actually. Not just you.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
You know, not just you.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that you prefer to listen to the sound of your own voice and you never listen to anything anybody else says.
Is your wild attack on me and calling me a weirdy beardy, was that made clip of the month?
Well, it's being voted for currently, actually.
Is it?
And you're right to draw attention to that, because I should have mentioned it earlier. They put it out as one of the nominees for clip of the month.
But aren't I right in saying I saw some responses saying, why did they cut out the words weirdy beardy?
Well, they cut out the words weird. It wasn't weirdy beardy. I said you bearded weirdo.
Bearded weirdo.
Yeah, there you go.
Bearded weirdo.
Bearded weirdo.
So why did they cut it out?
And they also bleeped out bugger off.
Yeah.
And made it sound like it was something worse.
Oh, I see, yeah,
They
right. Well, it
bleeped
would,
out
wouldn't
the
it,
word bugger.
if you put a...
But I suppose you can't have that during the day. But yeah, the last time I checked, actually, yesterday, and you can go and follow Hawksby and Jacobs, and you can find where to vote on it.
Yes.
I think the popularity was 62%.
Right.
Of the voters so far.
But you still haven't answered the question. Why did they cut out bearded weirdo?
Well, maybe they thought it was something that they couldn't put out during the day.
Why not?
Well, I don't know.
I don't feel particularly offended by it. I think it was rather comical.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole exchange is rather comical, and
Yeah.
hopefully we will both win. I will consider it a two
joint
Mikes
victory. Yeah, good.
If it was the other way round, of course, you'd consider it a Mike Parry victory, wouldn't you?
Well, no, not necessarily.
Well, you would.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. This is coming from the man who's doing Clash of the Titans on Sunday.
So why is it billed as your clip? It's our clip, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's billed as a Two Mics clip, isn't it?
It's billed as a Two Mics clip.
I believe so.
Okay,
yeah.
that's good.
Well, that's the show it appeared on.
Okay.
I mean, I think some people have referred to it as, Mike Graham giving Mike Parry, finally some lip back or something like that.
Yes.
But, yeah, no, it's not my clip.
Now
clip.
then, let me, because we've had a real musical theme for the show tonight, okay?
We have.
So let me put this to you, and you can tell me who it is, okay?
Right, okay.
When will I be famous?
Yeah, when will I remember the song?
I must be dancing.
I must be dancing.
Will I get my picture in the papers?
Yeah.
Right, who's that?
I don't know.
Of course you do.
No, I don't. I know the song, but
Yeah.
I couldn't tell who sang it.
It's Bros.
Bros. You see, I was never really a Bros person.
Well, neither was
because
I. But
Bros happened. No, the Bros phenomenon happened while I was in America.
Really?
Because I remember coming back
Yes.
to work for the Express, right?
Yes.
And at some point or other, quite early on
Yes.
in my career there, which would have been about 92-ish, I got sent to cover some bankruptcy hearing.
Okay.
And I didn't know who this guy was.
Yeah.
And it was Luke Goss, or
Really?
whichever one
Yeah.
of them had gone bankrupt.
Yeah, well, that's interesting.
And
Because
I remember saying to the guys, I said, I don't even know who these people are.
Yes.
Why is this even a story?
Well, funny you should say that, because the speculation is they're getting back together.
Uh-huh.
And it says almost 25 years after they split, amid spiralling debts.
Right.
80s boy band Bros delighted fans by announcing they're returning for a one-off gig.
Great.
Okay.
Where?
Well, I
So we
haven't
can
quite
avoid
got to
it.
that yet. 30th anniversary of Bros's arrival on the music scene could pave the way for a European tour, earning them £10 million apiece.
What?
The twin heartthrobs Luke and Matt Goss are now 48, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Because I never was a great follower of theirs, but I thought that was such a catchy tune because it had the line in it, when will I get my picture in the papers?
I
And
must
thought,
admit, that's probably the only song of theirs that I would recognise.
Yeah, and me. But it was quite interesting because the two of them was the third lad called Craig Logan.
Oh, yeah.
Now, he was the guy who played the bass guitar. These two just sort of sang, and he played a bass guitar. It was a very weird makeup.
Yeah,
of the
they
group.
didn't really have a band.
No, they didn't really have a band, no.
Yeah.
But he went off with chronic fatigue illness, ME, when he was about 19.
Okay.
And then sued the Goss twins and the former manager for money he said it was owed to him as the third member of the group. But I'm sure he also married, do you remember Mel and Kim?
Yes.
I
do, but again, they were part of that sort of period
were.
where I sort of missed their fame, if you like.
Yeah, that's right. But they made a great song called "And I Never Wanna Be." What's the word? Never wanna be. I never will be. Anyway, they were lovely.
Yeah.
And they were twins, or they were sisters.
There was another band called Womack and Womack.
Womack and Womack, that's right.
Which I also didn't know, because people kept making references to all these bands when I was back in London.
Footsteps on the dance floor. That was
maybe.
Womack and Womack. But Mel and Kim, very tragically, they were two very gorgeous girls.
Yeah.
They were sisters, and they were very talented. And one of them died of cancer.
Oh, really?
And I think Craig Logan married the other sister.
Okay.
But anyway, the point I'm making is that you said
Did
that
he
you
recover
went
from his chronic fatigue syndrome then?
Yeah, he did, and became a record producer.
Okay.
It said, Logan is not due to take part in the reunion as he focused on his new career as a songwriter and music manager. In 2010, he started his own company, Logan Media Entertainment, which now has offices in London and Los Angeles.
Right.
So he did okay. But what you said about the bus stop and the money, after the band split up in 1992, my God, that's a long time ago, isn't
Well,
it?
you see, that's why I didn't know who they were.
Yeah. He carried on singing and writing songs under his own name. On first moving to the US, he was virtually unknown and had so little to spend, he could only buy one cheeseburger a day. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sure I had to cover some form of bankruptcy hearing. Now, it may have been one of his companies or something, but something around the Bros sort of phenomena was going bankrupt, and I had to go and cover it. And as it turned out, he turned up, and then the lawyers didn't turn up. It was a real
Which
fiasco.
one turned up, do you know?
Well, I don't know. All I remember was he had this sort of shock of bleached white hair, which they both had, right?
They did. They did.
To be honest, I can't remember which one it was.
Yes, I see.
And he was, and you could tell that he was on his uppers because he was quite friendly.
Oh, I see.
Because normally in these cases, you don't get to talk to these guys.
Yeah. But as you quite rightly say, they only ever really made one record. What I do remember about them was,
they were sort of heartthrobs for a lot of young teenage girls.
Oh, massive heartthrobs. You know, Bros were like the kind of the David Cassidy of the day, you know what I mean? And but the other thing I remember, they always drove around in Porsche cars.
Did they?
And I thought, well, they made it. But then I found out later they were sponsored by Porsche as an image maker, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as soon as they
I
went
think if I'd been
south...
Porsche, I would have wanted them in the cars.
Well, maybe
ridiculous.
they weren't sponsored by Porsche. Maybe that's something somebody told me, which wasn't true.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that certainly once the money disappeared, so did the Porsche for obvious reasons, I suppose. And that was it. But anyway, these comebacks they don't always work, do they?
They don't. I mean, I don't know where that figure of 10 million each comes from, but I mean, it might be from their own PR company. But I mean, if they're going to make 10 million each, you would hardly blame them for doing it.
No, exactly. No, I totally agree.
Now, a lot of suggestions for quizzes here. Steve says, "What about a quiz on extracts from that best-selling book, Rooney Tunes?"
Yes.
I predict 0 out of 1p. Which is a bit harsh.
Yeah.
Then he says, let's start with what's her name? Thinking aloud, Sandra.
Yes.
Another one says, how about a quiz on the highway code? We've done a quiz on the highway code.
Yes, we have,
That's from Nigel.
Yeah.
I think you got 3 out of 10.
Yeah,
how about a quiz on England managers since '66 World Cup? Did we not do that? I think we did that.
Yes, we have done that.
How about a quiz on the famous World War II battle for Malta?
Porky
is, of course, a World War II
Well,
expert.
of course, they got the George Cross, Malta as an island. Look, I
Did
tell
they
you
get the
what,
Maltese Cross?
no, they got the George Cross.
Oh, right.
Yeah, definitely.
Who gets the Maltese Cross then?
Well, no, the Maltese Falcon you're thinking about was a famous novel.
No, it was a film.
But the Maltese...
It was a Humphrey Bogart film.
Yeah, it was.
But there's a Maltese cross, though, isn't there?
Well, a Maltese cross is a cross where it's the 4 points of the cross are wider at the top than they are in the middle.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, it looks a bit like the Iron Cross.
Yeah, it does look a bit like the Iron Cross, I agree. Look, what about this one? Born on this day in 1944, Joe Frazier.
Joe Frazier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the Frazier Ali battles?
What, a quiz on just Frazier and Ali?
Well, yeah, you see, we're running out of subjects. This is the problem.
We're not running out of subjects.
Yeah.
We're just running out of subjects that you want to do quizzes on.
Well, here, what about this one then? In this week, in 1991, Elizabeth Taylor married for the 8th and final time.
Yeah.
Now, we know quite a lot about her, because the guy she married was Larry Fortensky.
That's right.
He was the building worker, wasn't he? He was a truck driver.
He was a truck driver,
Yeah, a truck driver. Yeah. Married Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah.
Right.
It didn't last terribly long, that.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't last
There
long.
was something I was going to suggest, but I've forgotten what it was now.
Oh, well, that's helpful, isn't it, eh?
Yeah.
Well, I think we should do Elizabeth Taylor.
You think Elizabeth Taylor?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, I'm happy to... If you're happy to do it, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, Elizabeth Taylor.
All right.
Okay?
All right. Is she still alive?
No, of course she's not.
That'd be the first question.
Yeah, exactly. to celebrate the anniversary of her 8th and final marriage. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a bit tenuous, but I suppose that'll work.
Well,
it's quite glamorous. That.
Yeah, of course it is. Exactly, and it covers an expanse of subjects. You know, it might involve
Films.
Richard Burton. Might involve films.
Yeah.
Might involve her charity work and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. A bit of music, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of potential there.
Yeah, plenty of potential. Elizabeth Taylor. And anyway, I like beautiful and glamorous women. I feel attracted to them.
Yes.
I know they're attracted to me. So
I know.
That makes a good fit.
Say. One of the suggestions was a quiz on hurricanes, because once again, I have to give you an update on Hurricane Matthew.
Yes.
Hurricane Matthew, which hit Barbados, we mentioned this the other day, a few days ago.
Oh, yes.
Marcus had tweeted into us and said, there's a bit of a hurricane coming, tropical storm. Should I go to work? Your advice was, don't be a wuss.
Yeah.
Just get out there and go to work.
I did.
Meanwhile, it has cut a swathe through the Caribbean.
I know, I feel a bit guilty about it
They
now.
are about to now evacuate Florida, as you might have heard on the news, in what they are calling the biggest evacuation for a storm ever in the history of hurricanes in Florida, which means an awful lot.
I know, it's amazing, that. It's absolutely amazing, yeah.
So what we're going to do tomorrow, there's a guy called Scott Phillips who used to work here. As a producer.
Oh, yes.
He used to produce my show, used to do a bunch of other stuff.
Okay.
He's now living in Florida.
Right.
Running a radio station.
So we need to talk to him.
And he's been evacuated.
Yeah, he's been evacuated, has he? Wow. Where do they evacuate people to, then?
Well, they take them away from the coastal areas as best they can. I mean, if you're in somewhere like Miami, obviously you have to go either all the way up to
Baton
sort of...
Rouge.
Well, you wouldn't go that far, no, but you'd have to go inland. To the point where, you're not going to be, subject to flooding.
Trouble is that Miami's a peninsula anyway. Yeah. So you might get it on the other side anyway.
Well, that's what I mean. You have to either sit in the middle, right, or you have to go all the way north up to somewhere like Orlando.
That's right.
Which is kind of inland,
That's right, yeah.
Because it is, I mean, the whole of Florida is not very wide, is it?
No, it's not. That sounds grim. So, in fact, on our internal monitor, I think we have some pictures of people evacuating themselves.
There you go.
All the freeways look as though they're packed up there.
Well, I mean, they're used to it, but I mean, this is my point. For it to be called the biggest evacuation Florida's ever actually done, is extraordinary.
It is extraordinary, I agree. Yeah, well, it's not my fault that weather situations are unreliable. I still think that people give in too easily to the elements.
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, but you can't mess about. The one thing you don't mess about with in America is their ability to predict what the weather is actually going to do.
I agree.
Because if you remember Hurricane Sandy? The one that came into to New York City and wiped away like lots of buildings on the Jersey Shore. Yeah. I mean, they said that was going to be terrible, and it didn't turn out to be terrible. So you've got to pay attention.
I like being stranded in Manhattan once when a storm hit the city.
Did you?
The Verrazano Bridge moved 7 feet either side, so we had to all stay in Manhattan for the night. Yeah. Well, I lived there anyway, but I mean, so did everybody else. Yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
Look at the light!
Don't forget to follow the Two Mics at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.
People think I was disrespectful to the hero dog.
Yes.
I wasn't. I only asked if the dog had been stuffed, and I called it a dumb animal. Yeah. Because dogs are dumb animals.
If you gave me a train load of jelly beans, I'd throw them at you.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1 a.m. on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
And if the Jack Army will jack off Bob.
I'm not sure you can say that. This is a family show.
Really,